start work. All right, so we are going to get started with Value², and the subtitle here is the value get determined with value that you get. Right? What do you think that means?
Well, yeah.
Relating to us as agents, what do you think that means?
So pretty much we're talking about business ethics, right? It's whatever value, whatever is going to put as a experience and dedication to the job or to the task. That's how much you're going to get succeed. You go like, oh, it is whatever. You're probably going to end up with. You know what I mean? It's a mindset that you have before you go on any contract.
Yeah, dealing with people just in general, right? Because ultimately, and I think it's pretty self-explanatory as it relates to us. We can articulate value. A lot of agents right now, especially with any art stuff, they're really like, oh my God, how am I going to get paid, especially as a buyer's agent? And at the end of the day, if we can't articulate our value very well, even if we are valuable, but we can't articulate it very well, we're going to get paid less, we're going to get paid lower, or we're not going to get paid at all, right? I think the typical value prop, especially on the buy side, over the last 30 or years or so as a buyer's agent has been, oh, don't worry about it, you don't have to pay me, I'm going to get paid from the seller. And so for most people that were buyers, that was the value, is cool, I don't need to pay you. It doesn't matter if you're any good or not. As long as you can help me buy a house and I'm not going to have to come up with any money out of my pocket, cool, I'll use you. Right? Now stuff has changed maybe a little bit where there might be situations where our buyer might want to compensate us. All of a sudden, instead of, yeah, I'll use you even though I don't know you and I haven't met you before and I don't know if you're any good or not, I don't have to pay you. Cool, where do I sign? Where now it's like, wait, you're telling me I'm going to potentially have to pay $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. Okay, what do I get for that? Right? And you can't go back to, well, the seller's going to pay. I mean, the best thing to do right now is we'll try to get the seller to pay, but try is not going to necessarily be good enough anymore for people because they're going to have to pay thousands of dollars. Now all of a sudden we have to really be good at being able to articulate our value. Right? And then on the same token of that, even for the seller, stuff really hasn't changed too much on the listing side, other than we're having to have more conversations with sellers on why they should potentially maybe pay buyer comp, agent comp. But at the end of the day, most of the stuff is fairly similar on the listing stuff, right? And I think one of the things that we're going to see as an industry that's going to kind of shift a little bit is historically new agents predominantly sold more webs. Listings were work with buyers. Why?
Safer.
Really safer.
It's not.
If I don't have to pay you, there's right involved with me, and I don't have to, and so I don't really care as much about your value. I mean, I do, but I don't care as much about it because ultimately I know nothing's going to come out of my pocket. Right? Where new agents traditionally or historically have had a much tougher time getting listings. Why? Because the sellers are the ones that have to pay. And if I got to pay you, I need to know what I'm getting from you, and I need to know what their value is in order for me to justify making this payment. Right? And I think that the shift that we're going to probably see after a lot of this stuff shakes out is buyers agents having to do be a little bit more on an equal level with listing agents, because again, now if the buyer's going to have to pay, I gotta know my stuff. And I gotta be able to articulate what I do. And I gotta be able to articulate how I do it for you so that you'll be willing to compensate me. Okay. So that's what we're going to talk about today is, how we serve as functionary, both like functionary and a fiduciary for our clients, working with buyers and working with sellers. Now, we're going to speed through some of this stuff because this is normally like 4 or 5 hour class, and I wanted to cut it down to about 3. So we're going to really kind of only focus on some of the important points, and we'll kind of skim over on some of the other stuff so we get through it a little bit quicker. Yeah.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
the weekend I had a house and I used the score sheets. And they were pretty good. It's so much based on how they thought of the home as well, the one that wanted to do it. They had fun with it and they actually wrote down how much they would pay for the house. And I just wanted to share that was really good, using that every single time.
Yeah, so now you got an extra chance to get their contact information, you engage them while they're going to bring up a house. You could get an idea of what interests them and what they're potentially looking for and why. Yeah, it was that sheet that I created for you guys.
Yeah, that's really neat. Just wanted to tell
And it gives you good feedback and it's like.
first, one had an 8, 2, 9. It wasn't really busy, but
Are you gonna leave out?
potentially 2.
There you go.
When they wrote it down, were they above this?
Some were like low, some were like close to the asking price, but not at asking.
All right, so the QR code again, you don't really necessarily need it, other than it takes you to a folder that gives you access to the documents and the slide deck. So if there's something in here that you were like, hey, I want to use that slide in my presentation, then that you can get access to the slide, right?
Yeah.
Don't change it. Okay. All right, Daniel, so the next slide. Just, I'll throw this out here real quick, other people, because Jason Abrams would get really mad at me if I didn't. Just make sure that if we're making any phone calls, we do it in a EPA friendly and compliant way. We don't want you guys to get sued by people for calling you to call us. So make sure you got permission to call people, or text people and all of that. Just email people before you put them on. Okay. All right, let's go to the next one. Says value is at the heart of all businesses because all businesses are an exchange of value. You determine the value you provide, and your clients determine how valuable it is to them. The goal of this material is to help you understand how important value is and how you can build your business around it. Right? Again, if my value prop was I can help you buy a house and you don't have to pay me, cool. There's some decent value in that. But now if I can't say that, if I say I can help you buy a house, then you might have to pay me 40 grand or 50 grand. And they say, well, what did I get for that? And it's like, well, I'll buy a house. So ultimately, that's the big thing is we got to build our message to clients around the value thing that we're going to be providing. All right, so let's jump into it. It says the law of value squared says the value you get determines the value you get. The more I give, the more I get. Right? The challenge for all businesses, they must explain and demonstrate the value they give consistently, right? And so that's the hard part, I think, for some people posting digital, great, and you know that you do a great job with people. But if I can't tell people what I do, if I can't tell them how I'm going to do it for them, that's really, really tough. Right, and so ultimately we need to get really good at being able to explain ourselves and what we provide to our clients and how we can do better than them. So it says there's 3 ways real estate agents deliver and present their value. One is to establish trust. The next one is to provide a fiduciary representation, right? And the third is deliver core services with a positive and memorable client experience. That will also surprise and delight. Right, so let's talk a little bit about that. Why is that important to establish trust?
Well, trust, there's no relationship. They trust you to do anything or.
Yeah, that's one of the key ones because especially as new agents, right? And I know a lot of you guys aren't new, but even if you meet somebody you know in the house, cool, I could say that I've been in the business 21 years. That gives me a little bit of credibility and maybe a little pump on the trust. But what if I'm like 4 8? It's gonna have been a 4 8. Just because I've been in the business 21 years doesn't mean that I know what I'm even know that I'm good. I could have been the worst agent in the office for the last 21 years. I just stuck around. Right? And so that's what we really need to do, anybody to really do, I mean, people do business with, again, people who they like, know, and trust. And so we have an opportunity to build that quickly if we can, when we meet somebody for and we'll cover here. The trust is really the core of everything. So I don't trust you, right? Because hey, and that's the thing. They always tell agents, people do business with people they like and trust, right? And a lot of the new agents get started, they have trouble maybe kind of like breaking in. And I'm not even talking about they haven't met yet. I'm just talking about the friends and family and relatives that could do business with them too, right? Because they know you. And for the most part, we already like you. If you knew that one of your family, if I'm going to engage people, I'm not going to ask her for a business. Yeah, they don't do business with you. Well, they like me, they know me, but they haven't seen me in this role yet, so maybe they don't trust me in this role, right? So trust is really, really kind of key. What does it mean to provide fiduciary representation?
Just go above and beyond to do it if it was for you. You have to put, don't do nothing half.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna do it the right way, all the way it should be, and just show that you care.
Yeah, that's really,
Well, then you're vested,
yeah,
number one.
basically, here's, right? Everything that we, for the most part, you check a box off, right? Hey, listen to appointment, check. Hey, open house, check. Hey, spend the calendar out, check. Could I do everything at the base minimum and still check off all the boxes of what needs to be done? Yeah, that's functionary. Those are the functionary tasks of the role. It's how I do those tasks that is the fiduciary part. What Dree was kind of like alluding to is, am I going above and beyond? Am I making sure that, hey, I'm treating this situation like it was my own, or it was my mom's or a family member's, because how I do things is what's really important. You guys feel that when you go into a business, cool, right? I can go into a coffee shop and say, hey, I'll take a latte. The guy doesn't even speak to me and basically gets the latte. Here's the latte, that'll be $5. Cool, right? But if the person engages me and is talking to me and says, hey, do you like extra, do you like the milk extra foamy, extra hot? Kind of how do you like that? That is basically them making sure that I'm getting taken care of the way that I want to be getting taken care of, right? And then core services, again, just, hey, what are the things that I actually, and a lot of us, we can get through real estate transactions. Say, hey, here are all the things that a real estate agent does, and here's how I do this. Right? All right, Daniel, next slide. So the value model. So here's the model. Keller Williams is really big on models, so we can build a model on value and how to articulate our value. Look at we call this the value statement, right? And so the first thing we need to do is establish and build trust. Right? So we want to be able to meet somebody and start building that trust with them, because it all starts with that. If we don't get that, we don't get the business. And then at the bottom, we provide fiduciary representation. So making sure that we're serving the client's best interest at all times. And the middle is kind of the meat of both, right? And so it's providing core services, how we deliver a client experience, and then surprising and delighting, doing unexpected things so that people say, wow, Dree really went above and beyond in this particular situation, and I wasn't expecting that. That was awesome, right? So we'll go over all those things. So let's talk about establishing trust. So basically, this is the trust circle. If you came to my open house, we went over this quite a little bit. And so there's actually a model on how to build trust, right? So the first thing we need to do is show that we are empathetic, right? I hear you, I understand you, right? I care about what your needs are, because if I'm sitting there as an agent beating my chest and I'm the top agent in South End, you're allowed to even in this room with you to consider taking your business on, right? I think showing you really. So how do you really show somebody that you care?
By being empathetic,
Yeah, you can't answer the question with you.
Listening, supporting,
Well, think of our actions. What we do,
do what
it will,
Yeah, go ahead. So, the way we do things, responding in a timely manner. Right? Person calls in, I don't wait 2 days. We've all been guilty of that, we prioritize things. But ultimately, hey, I'm gonna be responsive, I'm gonna make sure that I ask good questions. That's probably one of the easiest ways to put somebody in errors, instead of making it about you, you ask them the things that are important to them. What's important in you financially? Like, what are the things that you really, what are important to you about this situation? Right, what, and then whatever they list, okay, well, what's important about each one of those things to you specifically? Right, what are you gonna get from it? If you don't get that, what's going to happen? Right, and how would that make you feel? Right, so at the end of the day, that's what I really want to do is, I'm not here to help somebody buy a house, and I'm not here to help somebody sell a house. Because, that's not the end of the game, but if I want to sell a house, I'm not, it's not my goal to sell the house, it's my goal to get the house sold so that I can move on to whatever next is. And if I'm not asking what those questions are about what's next, and I'm just focusing on the house itself, I'm missing an opportunity to build a stronger relationship. Because that's what I'm gonna then tell them, hey, my goal isn't really to help you sell a house, my goal is to help you come with what you're going to do next as a result of basically selling. If you say, hey, I want to buy a house, cool, why? Because people can rent. I mean, and ultimately, that's one of the things that Jason Abrams, Jason, one of our executives at Keller is their manager. And he says, hey, when I was in production, my goal was to buy a house. My goal was to help them live peacefully in the house. Wow. Because people buy it, the reason they buy a house, like I said, not really the four walls, because you can, hey, I could go to North Dakota and I could buy a house much cheaper than I can in LA. So that makes more sense. It's a lot cheaper, right? Yeah, I could live in a house instead of buying a house, and I gotta take on a mortgage. Why is it important for you to actually own it? Why is it important for you to live in a house for days or wherever? Right? What do you envision kind of like when you move into this house? And then cool, all of these goals and dreams that you have tied to buying this house, that's what I want to help you do. Not just buying. Right? So making sure that we care, so asking good questions, making sure that we're listening, writing down the things or the responses they say, these are all key things that will help us really show somebody that we're paying attention to them, we're listening to them, and hey, I hear you, right? Now, after we show them that we care and that we're empathetic, then we kind of move on to confidence. Because now that I know that Daniel cares about me, is it cool enough that I know Daniel cares about me? If I'm buying a $10 million house? Not really, because at the end of the day, cool, I know Daniel cares about me, but does Daniel know what he's doing? So that's where we move into confidence. Okay, he showed me he cares. Now can you do what he says? Now can you do what I need him to do? And so that's, that's where we got to demonstrate our knowledge and our skills and our experience. So how do we potentially articulate that? Not by doing it, but at the end of the day, I need to know my market, right? I can't sit there and say, this is one that I use in a lot of classes. What's the difference in the experience that you guys feel that you get? You come into my open house and you ask me a question, and I say, hey, that's a great question. I'll get the answer for you, and then I'll get back to you. Well, what's a good number? Versus you come into Daniel's open house, and you ask Daniel a question, he knows the answer, right? Who do you feel better about? Daniel, didn't have to even, my response was accepted. And it was great. I asked questions and all that other good stuff, and I showed that I care, but I didn't have the info. Now you go to Daniel's open house, he has the info, plus he has a whole lot more information. He's telling you about the schools in the area, he's telling you about the neighborhood values, he's telling you about all the issues maybe the house has had potentially in the past. And all the things that the seller has done to fix those things. And that should start to establish that trust a little bit more because, hey, you know, Daniel really knows everything about the neighborhood, about the school systems, about parks, about the amenities, about the neighborhood. Hey, here's Daniel also throws in, hey, you know what, where are you guys eating tonight? And because you know, he finds out that you're new to the neighborhood. I'm not sure yet. What kind of food do you like? Like, oh, you know what? You need to go on 152nd Street. There's a little Italian place over there that has the best Italian food in South Bay. Right? Totally different experience. And so that's what we really need to do is, you know, again, demonstrating that we're knowledgeable about the area. And then, you know, showing them that we're skillful. And then the experience stuff as well too. Now, some of us can't tell that maybe we don't have a lot of experience in real estate yet. You know, because we're all going to have to take that to Maureen pressures us in the experience part. But if people ask about experience, it's really easy to sit there and say, hey, listen, you know what? Even if I'm new to the business, you know, the market center that I work for, Al Amico's been selling homes here on the hill for 40 plus years. You know, we have a lot of agents like Stephen Hahn is one of the top, you know, 2-3 agents in all over the South Bay. I have a great team behind me that can support with me with that. I'll give you a little tip. In my 21 years of real estate, there's only been one time where somebody asked me how long I've been in the business. Almost nobody ever asked me that question. Why?
Well, you have that essence.
If I do those first two things right, nobody gets to number 3. Right? So, I mean, you could be brand new agent. Now, if I'm studying the MLS, if I'm studying the market stats, if I'm studying the local news and the national news on what's going on in the real estate industry, and I know my stuff about homes in the area, and when people come in and I get to meet with them, nobody's asking me how long I've been in real estate. They just assume I've been in real estate a long time because I know more than anybody else they've ever talked to. Right? After we get to competency, we get to transparency. So transparency just deals with, hey, you know what? I'm going to be clear with you, transparent with you on things. I'm going to be honest with you, even when maybe you don't want the news or you don't like the news, because that's what people want, right? And I'm going to communicate with you about every step of the way. Number one reason that people get pissed off at their real estate agents at the end of a transaction, and this NAR's been doing studies for years. What's the number one thing that people don't like about their agents?
Poor communication.
Poor communication, right? That's been the number one thing for like 20 years. All 21 years that I've been in business, every year when NAR does that study, it always comes back to my agent and communicate. So we need to make sure that we are communicative with that person and that we're honest with that person. And sometimes we're going to have to tell them things that maybe they don't want to hear. You know, Gary Keller, I was on a call 2 weeks ago now. With you know, I'm a leverage series instructor, which is a different class. But this call was the topic was you know, basically the career visioning process for Keller Williams. And the person who was leading the call was Landry, who's a maths coach. So she was talking to Gary Keller one time, and she asked Gary, because she you don't get that many opportunities to get one-on-one with him. So she said, "Hey, I staff him. You know, being in your position, what's the biggest challenge you?" Right? And she told her that basically people being honest. Because he goes, when you get to a certain level, you know, people don't want to be delivered the head guy bad news, and so they're afraid to speak the truth or speak their mind. And so just getting people, you know, people value transparency, people value honesty. If something's not right, even if it's going to potentially make them mad, cool, right? I'm gonna sit there, you know, that was one of my things is I lost some listings over that before, but you know, if Maureen comes to me and says, I think I can get 3 million for my house and their house is worth $2 million, I'm gonna tell them your house is worth $2 million. And I'm, you know, no, I want to list it at 3. Well, you know, that's, you know, and that was I used to always tell people, I was like, I never want to speak definite because you never know. There could be somebody that flies in from wherever, has a boatload of cash, and they don't care what they think. But statistically, on your side, you're gonna get $3 million. And I would want to take a listing on that is going to potentially not sell, right? And so then I would likely basically turn down Maureen's potential business. Because, and I need to be honest with her about it. Because what happens if I basically listen to what Maureen says, and then I take the listing on that I don't know is not gonna sell. Now I'm investing my time into this, it's probably not gonna pay me. I know a lot of agents will sit there and say, I'm gonna take that listing. Hopefully, I'm gonna be able to convince them to come down the price after we get on the market, nobody buys it. And then I'll still be able to get it to sell. You put yourself in the pressure, I'm potentially gonna lose money, and then at the end of the day, it's a no-win situation. Because even if Maureen does come down on price and sells the house, and I get the business, how good is she gonna feel about that transaction after it's over?
It's gonna badmouth you.
She's gonna badmouth me, and that, Dave John, I know he didn't try. Like, if he would have tried, he would have gotten that $3 million for me. I know he told me that he was only worth 2, but I could have gotten 3. And that John did, he was awful, right? And then on the flip side of that, maybe they don't do it. And what I don't want to have happen at either at the end of the transaction is I would rather be honest and not refuse the business and go off and let somebody else take that on. Because here's what ends up happening a lot of times. Daniel takes that listing at $3 million. Daniel doesn't sell it. Now Maureen is blaming Daniel and she's not obligating Daniel this. And then she comes back to me because I was honest with her in the first place when the listing expired and says, okay, hey, listen, John, I should have listed you the first time. Let's sell this. Right? And then the last thing is, can I count on you? Right? Are you returning my calls? Are you keeping your promises to me? Are you making sure that that you're meeting my expectations? Are you making sure that you're going back for me and not somebody else? Right? I take Maureen's listing on it, and Maureen feels like I'm actually fighting for Daniel and his buyer more than I'm fighting for her. No, I'm on course. Right? What's the best way to make sure that we meet somebody's expectation?
That's what the expectation.
Yeah. What do you expect out of real estate? That's one of my favorite questions to ask. Because now I know what it's going to take in order to meet the expectation.
Right.
And if I know I'm not going to meet one or two of those expectations, I got to figure out how I can actually make that happen if I'm going to take that person on as a client. And if I can exceed, if I know I can exceed all the expectations, I'm not going to also, I'm not going to also tell them all the extra that I'm going to do for them up front. Why do you want to reserve some?
So the way you don't promise.
Yeah, that way you don't overpromise and under deliver. And the whole thing that we talked a little bit about on here as well too, surprising and delighting. I know I'm going to be able to crush that expectation. I'm not going to let you know because I want to be surprised with you. Right? It's kind of like I was mentioning this to people in the class the other day. It's that a lot of it was, people always wondered in around 08 how I never had any problems with any of the people that had to pick out of their houses. I was listening for the banks on a lot of the REOs. And I always conveyed that I always gained from empathy when I talked to those people because they're losing in the house. That really sucks. And then in addition to that, I always showed them that I cared and that I was going to do what I could to go to bat for them. And one of the ways that I did that is, Eric, unfortunately, I have to foreclose on Eric. And I tell Eric that, hey man, the bank offers a cash for keys program, and basically what that means is that if you maintain the house and clean it out, move out on time, they're willing to give you money in order to assist you with whatever transition you're going to have to make next. And what the bank is authorized for me to be able to offer to you is $3,000. And then I'm going to wait for Eric's response. Eric's going to either say, hey, that's great, or he's going to say, man, I need a little bit more, or whatever like that. What Eric doesn't know is the bank has already authorized me to give him $7,000. And I'm not trying to lowball him, and I'm not going to try to keep that money or anything like that. But basically what I want to do is I want to be able to then go back after I have that conversation with Eric and whatever number we talked about, say, hey, you know, it's 3, I really need like 5. Well, hey, Eric, I'll see what I can do. You know, I'll go to bat for you. I'll do whatever I can to try to get them to bump that up to 5. Knowing that I'm going to come back and tell Eric that I got him set. Because now it's not only higher than what I originally came in at, it's higher than what he wanted or what he asked. And so those conversations, you know, that it was always really smooth for me to just go with that stuff, because they knew that I was doing what I could to really help them out. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, cool. I lost my clicker. So here's how you basically build trust up front and keep trust over time. So basically up front, this is how you build trust before you start working. You demonstrate that you understand and care about your clients' wants and needs, and then actually listen to you, right? Not like watching some of those TV shows where they have real estate agents and you see that people go, "This isn't what I want to look at all." So, you know, so we need to demonstrate empathy. We need to prove competency. Here's the things that I've done in order to help other clients, right? We need to establish transparency. Hey, here's how often I communicate with my people. Here's how I communicate with my people. Hey, what's your preferred method of communication? Because Maureen, you know, I'm thinking, hey, you know, I don't text message everybody, and Maureen doesn't read any of her texts. She wants phone call, right? Knowing what people act, how they want to communicate with too is super important. And then we need to assure the dependability, right? Hey, here's evidence of how I make sure that people can count on, right? So that's before the agreement. Over time, how you keep trust after the agreement. You can show empathy, so you continually demonstrate that you're putting their needs first. You deliver competency, so I'm showing you how I told you about all these things that I was good at. Now I'm showing you how that's going to work for you. That's probably one of the areas where I think people have the biggest challenge in a relationship. Why?
Because they don't do what to say.
No, I'm saying, hey, you know what? Daniel's the best agent in the world. But I don't think that Daniel is necessarily the best agent in the world, even though he is. Why?
Well, his skills.
Skills, and then yeah.
Maybe you don't know what you're doing.
That's the big thing, right? Because hey, I that was me too. My first real estate transaction, I was like, that real estate agent made the easiest money I had ever seen. That was like super simple, right? And truly, it was probably one of the easiest ones the guy had ever worked with. Because basically, he helped us find the new house that we were buying, and we bought the first house that he showed us because it was a really great house, right? And then he listed the house. Took the listing paperwork, installed the lockbox, didn't even get a sign in the yard. The next day we had an offer over list price and got more than what we wanted for the house. So that was like, it was pretty easy in terms of the grand scheme of things. But the thing is a lot of times the most seamless, easiest transactions for a client, right? They don't see all the stuff that we're doing so that they feel that, right? So there are no problems in the transaction and it feels really smooth and Davis was really easy. I just paid Davis. I didn't do anything. But I'm thinking that the Daniel on the back end of that stuff was like doing all kinds of stuff. So we got to be really good at when we are delivering the competency part. Hey, here's what I'm doing for you. Here's what I'm doing for you. Here's what I'm doing for you, right? So I think that really kind of goes in with that transparency too. I'm communicating all the things that I'm doing. Hey, you know, I hedged off this problem. Cool. I didn't know there was going to be a problem, but hey, I hedged off this. You know, I anticipated that this was going to potentially come up. Took care of this, eliminated. Cool. Right. So the more that we're communicative with people and being transparent and open, that helps with delivering the confidence. So I'm letting you know the things that I'm actively doing. And then providing transparency, so who am I gonna communicate with? When am I gonna communicate? What style am I gonna communicate? Establishing, the lines of communication, the one thing I don't want to do is I don't want to be one of these real estate agents that says, hey, I can call 24 hours, days and days a week, you can do what you want to do, then I'm up, I'm gonna text it back. No, right, so you need to really make sure you set for expectations for your clients on, not only when you're gonna communicate with them, but how they can communicate with you, right? And then ensuring dependability, just again, keeping your word, that's what's super important. Identity. So this is a really great. So this is how trust is built or lost. Some of these is how you do it with sellers. So the right side is how you do it with buyers. So you can build or lose trust when you're first making contact. So if I'm first making contact, how am I building trust? Talk about this already. When I first meet you, whether it's a buyer or a seller, how am I building? Analysis. What do you want? Like, why do you need it? Right? Making sure that I'm paying attention and listening to the things. I'm being interested.
You have information, you are the source, you have contact with the native environment.
Yeah, so demonstrating those skills and that knowledge again. If you, at the beginning, if I don't really answer things, and if I'm not really listening to you when you're talking, or if I'm talking more than you're talking, right? That you're not building, right? And so you could do that up front, with both the buyer and seller. It says when you're presenting value, reaching agreement and setting expectations. If I'm not presenting value, I'm going to lose trust. If I, when we're talking about an agreement, what you're going to pay me for and what I'll do, if I can't articulate that well, you're going to lose trust. And then setting the expectations. If I don't ask that question about what your expectations are, then hey, even if I feel I do a really great job, if there was one thing I didn't do that Maureen thought was important, I blew it. Right? So I have to find out all of those things. What's really important when you're setting expectations with people too, is I feel is just as important, if not more important, than asking them what they expect, is basically how many of you guys say, hey, when I take a buyer or a seller on, this is my expectation. Right? Because if you're not going to be my ideal client, I might not want to work with you. So here's, hey, you know what? My expectation is that, hey, these are the hours where I'm going to communicate back with you. And you're something that Daniel's going to be wants to text bombing me at 9 o'clock at night, starting my family. Right? So that way you just make sure that you're a match for them and that they're a match. Okay. Now we got to establish boundaries, because I don't think there's very many doctors or attorneys out there that if their clients bombing them at 9 o'clock at night, that they're actually responding back. So here's how we lose trust with buyers and with sellers in step 3. When you're educating around key milestones in the process. If I don't know my process, I'm gonna lose trust. Right? On the buy side, when you're qualifying, you're not asking a good needs analysis and asking them things that they want and need and why those things are important, you're gonna lose trust there. Some other key points where you could lose trust is when you're executing your marketing plan. That's a big one for sellers. I don't feel like they're marketing your property right. Why is it not showing up on this list? Where's the flyers? Right? Hey, these flyers don't look like they're high quality. We need to make sure that we have a really good marketing plan. On the buy side, you're showing me a bunch of properties or sending me a bunch of properties that are nothing about what I said I wanted or what they're interested in. That's where we can lose some trust with them too. With the next step, we always say that they're the same as the buyers or buyers. They buy something that they said they never wanted to buy. Sometimes they do. They just don't know. And so if I'm going to send somebody a property that's outside of their scope or outside of what they said that they wanted, I'm not going to just send them the property. I'm going to say, hey, listen, I know this is a little bit outside of your price range, but hey, I know this is a little smaller than what you said you were looking for, or hey, I know this doesn't quite have the bed count that you wanted. Or the garage size, but here's why I think it might be a good fit for you. Right? Hey, if you wanted a 4-bedroom, this one's only a 3-bedroom, but it has a den as far as that goes. This might be something that works. And it has it checks off all the other things that you're looking for. When you're providing ongoing communication and feedback, we're not communicating with our sellers during the process of listing their property. That's a good opportunity to start to lose trust with people. And then when we're showing properties to buyers, kind of like the same thing for number 3. That's a point where we typically lose trust with people if we're not doing a good job there. Number 6, for both sides, when we are negotiating contracts, that's where we tend to lose trust with people sometimes as well too. I think the big thing is when we're negotiating contracts is, are we really going out and again, treating this like it was our own transaction? Because the thing is, the more into my seller, she feels like I'm not fighting for her and I'm just giving her money away, she's not gonna be happy. And on the buy side, Daniel's my buyer and he feels that I'm not trying to actually get him a deal at all, like nothing, like, no, Daniel, forget it, you gotta pay, you know, this, you gotta pay the seller full list price. Actually, you gotta pay $200,000 over the list price. Don't ask them for anything. They're not gonna pay it. This is what we gotta do. Right? You gotta try to feel, hope Danny feel like got some sort of win in this particular. Right? When you're in the due diligence period, hey, I'm not showing up to inspections. I'm not explaining the inspection reports very well. You know. Hey, maybe I'm missing. Hey, you know what, Emmanuel, we need to get this signed today. And Emmanuel's thinking to himself, why is John sending me something back saying he needs to sign today? When he probably had like 2 weeks to me, he sent it to me like, you know, he sent it to me 1 o'clock in the afternoon saying I need it back by 5. Right? We want to make sure that we are taking care of people on that. And then at the close of the transaction. Right? And sometimes there are things beyond our control, but I know that there have been situations where I heard that, hey, you know what, house isn't ready. You know, I'm moving into this house and the sellers are still actually there, right? So even though that's not necessarily our fault, because people who can contractually agree, who's the buyer gonna, you know, potentially blank? It's gonna be you, right? Why did they ensure that they were already out? Why did you do this? So I think that's what some transparency comes in. Hey, I'm sitting, you know, they're still not out of the property. Hey, you know what? You got some info on, hey, when are you gonna get out? They told us. So and then as long as I'm explaining to that person all the things that I'm doing to try to get them out of the house. If they don't end up out of the house and they're supposed to be, at least I have got evidence that I've been doing everything that I can to get them out so that my client can move in on time. Right? All right. Daniel, any questions on that?
Oh, I had a question earlier. Do you know what that do not call list that you mentioned? What is it?
Well, there's a national do not call list. And so there's some people that they want to sign up to put their name on the do not call list, and they go on a national registry of people that you're not supposed to make sales. Right? So a summary, establishing trust. Before any core service framework can be created and executed, trust first needs to be established. You build it to sustain trust over time. Use the 8 moments where trust is built or lost with sellers as a template for building a real estate practice. So going back to that last slide, what you're going to want to do with that last slide is, hey, how am I operating in each one of these areas? How am I making sure that I'm taking care of my sellers? How am I making sure that I'm taking care of my buyers during these sections, right? For each moment, define how you will demonstrate each component of the circle of trust. So each one, in all of those 8 scenarios, how am I showing that I am empathetic? How am I showing that I'm confident? How am I showing that I'm transparent? And then how am I showing that I'm dependable to each one of those things? Right? And then set your action. All right, so for this first section, what are some things that you guys felt like you got from that first section? What are some ahas?
You're a better communicator.
You better communicator. Huh? Be good with.
I think, for me, when you show that you are working, because they don't know all the stuff that you're running up and down and this and that, you just show up with, it's fine. We don't know everything that I have to go through.
Oh, let
To
them
build.
build communication.
I mean, that's all. That would be just letting them know a little bit behind the scenes.
Yeah, here's what I'm doing. Right, good example of that is that in addition to what I do with my role here in Washington, I'm also in regional leadership. One of my regional leaders said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I was kind of like, "What do you mean, what am I doing?" I listed out all the things that I am going to be doing for this week, right? And for that role, and he emailed me back and said, "Hey, that's a great week." Cool. I didn't let him know what I was doing, so he was left to what? Believe is not actually doing anything. Right? And so by just articulating with people what we're actually doing for them, goes a long way. Now I know, okay, cool. John's taking care of it. John got everything under control. Where if I'm not like telling you the things that I'm doing, it's like, what's John actually doing? Anybody's, and if I don't, even if you're doing a great job, right? And but nobody knows about it, then what's John actually doing? Why am I paying him 50 grand to do it? I think that's been one of the big challenges for a lot of agents. I think most agents are pretty good, right? I think the majority of the agents are actually pretty good, right? But a lot of them have not done a great job, not only at articulating their value, but then also letting people know, hey, here's all the things I'm actually doing for you. And and a lot of agents sometimes I think get mad at their clients. Their clients will sit there and like give them some grief over something. And it's like, the only reason they're giving you grief is they don't know what you did. They don't know what's going on. Yeah. Next, fiduciary representation. So we talked about this a little bit already in the value model, so we're not going to repeat this, but we are going to go over the fiduciary part of this. Again, you'll go to the next slide. Functionary versus fiduciary. So here's the traits of a functionary relationship. Shallow relationship. That doesn't sound very good, right? Assumes the least amount of responsibility. Give me my checklist and what's the bare minimum I need to get done in order for me to say I did the job, right? Reports data and information. So here's the data. House prices are, the average list price is $2.6 million. Average days on markets, 30 days, all of that good stuff. All you're doing is spitting facts out. What do I really want?
Like the fact.
Nice game. Well, it's actually all over it. So I put it right here. I put it right here. The average sales price about 2.6 in 30 days. What does that mean for me? And how does that basically translate to meet my purchase of a property or me listing a property? You just gave me the data. You just give you data. I don't know what's it. Now I got to tell you what it means and why that's important. Okay. Actually, rather than go down each list side by side, let's go from each one to each one. So function versus shallow relationship, who wants to be a shallow relationship, right? Versus fiduciary being in a deep relationship. Okay. Number two assumes the least amount of responsibility. And a fiduciary role accepts the most amount of responsibility. Hey, you're hiring me to be your agent. I am going to take this stuff on, and the success of us is all it's going to fall on, and this is why I like to interview people as much as they are interviewing me. Because if you're not going to do your part, if you're not going to be open to the offers that I'm going to present you and the prices that I suggest at and all this other kind of stuff, I can't go out there and accept the most responsibility. Right? For me to be a really great functionary, you got to be a team, and I got to know that when I go out there and go to war for you, that when the time comes, you're going to do what you need to do, right? And so I think that This part, I think it's also gets set up front in a meeting that, okay. Maureen wants $3 million for her house for $2 million, and you get responsibility for that, because that's not my kid do. Right, so that's why that setting expectation on both sides early to make sure that you got a match, super important for you to do this at the high level. Because if you're asking me to accept higher responsibility and everything rests on me for something I know that I can't do, then I can't do that. Right? And then you're going to revert into doing this because it's like, hey, I'm not going to be responsible for the success or failure of this when I don't control the variables. So I'm going to just do whatever I need to do to try to make something work, but you're not going to go. We talked about number 3 already. Number 4 reacts to requests versus anticipating need. What's the difference between those two? Now we talked about this morning, right?
Pretty much, as you're leading the transaction, you are steps ahead of the person you prepare for it, your experience level. I mean, you're not, it's not something new, so you're basically preparing your steps ahead.
Yeah, I mean, a good example of this is, hey, listen, Marlene, this probably is not going to come up, but this potentially could be an issue down the road. If it does come up, this is what we're going to do about it. Right? How secure do you feel when I had a conversation with you about something that may not even pop up on what we're going to do if it does? Right.
Watch out for it.
And the thing is that if you wait until, and again, this happens with me and my wife all the time. I was kind of freaking mind reading, right? So it's like my wife wants me to think about things that haven't even happened yet, or may never happen. And that way I can make her feel safe and comfortable that I got a plan for this stuff. And I'm kind of like, I never even thought about it. You know, she's been thinking. I don't know, like a Salish. Something that hasn't even happened to me. But I think that's the only thing is, does it feel better to you when somebody is taking care of things you didn't even know that you wanted, but you do, versus I have to come to you with all my problems. I have to raise the problem for you. I'm the one that needs to point this stuff out to you, right? Hey, you know what, Manuel? I found, you know, talk about something to buy, especially if I had to pay you. Manual, you're gonna get paid 50 grand off the full escrow on this thing, and I'm the one that actually found the house. He didn't even know it was the house from Zillow. We went in and he owed me right offer and everything like that, but right?
They say that.
Well, that's why everyone wants to get a real estate license now. Yeah, because they think it's that easy.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what they.
Number 5 is focus on past. And then number 5 on fiduciary is focuses on the outcome. Right? Doesn't matter what I do. Like, who cares how it gets done?
Yeah, they just want.
It just needs to get done in the most efficient, best way possible. Right? So, hey, I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, this, and this done. It's like, hey, what's going to be the way that's going to produce the easiest path towards getting to accomplishing my client's goals? And let's focus in on what that's going to be. Right? Number 6, I love that. Tell me how great. Number 6 is educating guys. What feels better?
Educate.
Right? Kind of like my formula studies. You know, you go in there and, hey, John, I got this. You know, 9/11 goes 0 in like 3.4 seconds, man. It's got this, and all this other good stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, I got a wife and 3 kids and 2 dogs and surfboard, and while that, I think 11 would be pretty awesome, you didn't listen to anything that I said that I needed to buy in and have a car. Right? You're just selling me on all of this stuff, and I don't need any of that stuff. And even if I wanted that stuff, it's not something that's tangible. And so rather than telling and selling, what do you need? What do you want? Where are those things important? Right? If we found this, maybe, but and didn't have this, would that be okay? So you're really getting the big picture of what the person really wants, and then you're guiding them on how to get it. That's why teachers do a great job at becoming real estate agents, because that's what they do every day. Like I wish, I wish so bad in my life to get into real estate, because she would like kill it. She was probably one of the best agents on the planet. But she, loves teaching. But she's really good at listening. She's really good at listening to people other than me, right? But I think that's really the big thing is that being a consultant, the person who asks questions and it's not telling people, but actually listening to them, that those are the best, right? Dan Harvey who came in like last November and taught that wealth plan and that workshop. That's what he's one of the top agents in Keller Williams, based out of Hawaii. He said, my business really changed or pivoted when I stopped talking and I started acting. Right? A functionary is replaced why? You're not in checklists off. You find anybody in checklist. Right? But a fiduciary, I can't replace. And that's why Gary Keller always said that technology is not going to replace the real estate agent, because at the end of the day, technology can do all the functionary tasks, but it can't do the fiduciary. And this is an important, decision for people, both financially and mentally, and all that stuff. And a computer can't be a guide. A computer can't be somebody that's going to really listen to you. A computer can't be somebody that's going to let you cry to them or vent to them and then reassure you, right? And so and then the functionary is minimally paid. Why would you be minimally paid if you're a functionary? If you're a dime a dozen, and I can get anybody to write me a contract, right? But I can't get anybody to do all of those other things. Somebody that really listens to my needs and wants, somebody that interprets the data for me, somebody that's educating me so that I can make the decisions that I need to make, right? Somebody that's anticipating my needs. Those people are going to have to. Any questions on this?
So basically, fiduciary is just built on trust and functionary. It's like the opposite, right? Because it's shallow and
the easiest way to put this is a functionary is what you do, right? A fiduciary is how you do.
okay.
Right? I'm going to provide skill and care and guidance and support, and I'm going to treat you like hey man, if you're my buyer, I'm going to go to bat for you to the point where I'm going to treat you like if I was buying this property for myself, right? Versus, hey, you know what? I'm going to write you the contract, I'm going to submit it in, and we're going to, I'm going to do what I need to do, but I'm not going to go beyond that at all, right? Cool. So summary, being fiduciary to customers has remained a constant and unchanged factor in the real estate industry. Fiduciary not only does the tasks of the job, but it's also in a high trust relationship with their client. They feel responsible for the outcome. They put their clients in of their own, all client information is confidential. And a fiduciary builds deep relationships with their clients because they take an active role in interpreting and advising on data and information. Right? Any aha from that little small section? How do you do?
Show your buyers, your sellers, how you do it.
All right, so let's break down sellers and then we'll break down buyers, and that will get us pretty much to the end of this. So what do sellers want?
Money.
Sure, money, right? I want the price of the property. So it's not just the highest net possible. It's sometimes you'll find that, and if it was always the highest net possible, investors would never make any money. The investors make all kinds of money. Because we always assume that it's always about the most to net the most money, but it's also what? Returns. You know, the terms could be time. Hey, you know what? I gotta go back to Maryland to sell my mom's house because, you know, she's, you know, moving into assisted living or whatever like that. Or let's say my parents or my grandparents passed away and left me a house in Maryland. I don't live there. I got my work here. I don't have time to mess with all of that other stuff. Maybe I don't really need the money so much. I just want this off my back. And hey, you know what? Teresa, give me a deal. Like, I want this done. I want this as quickly as possible. Cool. You might have to, you know, sell it for a wholesale price rather than retail. I don't care. I want this done. There's people all the time for various reasons. And so it's not always just it's like, and that's why we gotta ask for what's the most important thing in this software. Just to get it done. I don't want to. I've been out here for 3 weeks. I need to get home, and I don't want to deal with this anymore. So I just get sold, right? So it's the net most amount of money, reduced amount of hassle, and the least amount of time.
Yeah, because I know I had a client that was more concerned on the time factor of the loan, like they went with a lower price. The guy could do the loan 10 days versus
Yeah, I need to run from this house to buy my next house, and if I gotta take 50 grand less, I don't care because this is going to fall apart over here and this is my dream house if I don't get this one done, right? So there's all kinds of things that it's not always necessary. That's why we got to ask those questions on why things are important to people, because ultimately, if we assume that it's the net the most money, maybe it's not. Then maybe I don't sell it. And then maybe I don't help them reach the goal that they wanted, or they would have been happier with me had they lost grand, but we got it done early, right? All right. So how do we do this for ourselves? So here's our core services. These are the things we do. Now, whether you recognize this or not, it's just being able to make sure you can articulate. So seller core services generally fall into 4 stages, right? Is consulting to the decision. Ultimately, that's what, you know, as a real estate agent, what somebody's asking us to do is to lead them through this transaction. And Gary Keller's definition of leadership is to basically help educate somebody so that they can make an informed decisions, so that they can do what's in their best interest when it comes time to make those decisions. And that's what we are. So we're leaders for our clients. So we're there to provide them with the information that they need to have so they can make the best decision, help them hit the goal that they want to hit when it's time for them to make a decision. So consulting, marketing the product is the next part of that. Negotiating contracts and closing the sale. Right? That's really what we do in helping sell. I love this right here. It's the most powerful words in real estate. Here's what happens next. Because if I'm looking for guidance, I don't really know what's going to happen next. How comforting is it to have somebody physically say, hey, you know what? This is where we're going to start. This is what we're doing right now. And then here's what's going to happen next. And then when we get that, you're thinking, what's going to happen next?
very good.
Right? So you don't articulate that in your word tracks. That's probably something that you should get to.
Sometimes they don't want to listen to this. Like they fear it, you know, like, let's say I'm taking a listing and they wanted advice. I had my appraisal, I put my comps, I got an advice, reasonable. But again, if we don't sell at this price, you can't come and tell them, hey, this is what's gonna happen next month from now, I'm gonna reduce 50. You don't want to listen to this. They fear to listen to it.
Yeah, well, I think here's the thing: is depends on the situation. So it's like, listen, I know. Well, I mean, using your scenario. So the appraisal, so you have an appraisal done. They don't want to hear that you're going to hey, you need to lower the prices. Appraisal kickback, lower. Hey, Emmanuel, I hear you. So here's what we're going to do. Here's what's going to happen. is, I know that you want that price is 1.4, and appraisal came back at $1,350,000, right? We'll list it at the 1.4, right, because I know that you feel that's what you can get. But typically the activity for a listing, the highest amount of activity for a listing is in the first 14 days of the property being listed. So here's what I suggest that we do next, is we'll list it to 1.4. If we get an offer, awesome, right? If we don't get any offers, not getting showings, if the feedback we're getting from the showings is the price, talking over price a little bit. What I suggest we do next is talk again in 7 days. And then we'll, look at reducing the price down to the appraised value of that. Right? So even though I'm not saying, hey, this is definitely what we're going to do next. Hey, this is what I would suggest that we do next. And at that point, even if you don't want to listen to me, you're going to listen to me anyway, because, oh, okay, cool. And if you tell me, oh, hell no, in a week, if it's not sold at 1.4, we're going to keep it at 1.4. Well, then at that point, I'm going to just sit there and say, hey, listen, I don't think that we can, because you hired me to do a job and do advise you, if you're not letting me do the job. And I think that's one of the key things there too, is if they're not receptive to what's going to say, hey, here's what we're going to do next, or here's what's going to happen next. Cool, you're not listening to me. Because what would happen if we went into a doctor and the doctor said, hey, here's your plan, here's your basically improvement plan or your plan to regain your health. And basically, I don't want to listen to it. Doctor's going to sit there and say, screw you. Right? I got fine. People actually do what I tell them to do. Like, you're wasting my time. Right?
Also, look at what's important, sometimes the process of, you have inspections. And I've had clients in the past that say, well, what happened? What's going on? They don't know there's a request for it there. Then after that, it's that. So
Well, this all goes back to the transparency and communication, right? Hey,
what happens next?
here's what's going to happen next with this transaction. Here's what's going to happen. Hey, we're going to get the house listed, and then I'm going to, within the first week, I'm going to, hey, how's it going to get listed in a week? So this next week, what's going to happen is the photographer's going to come out this day. We get the home cleaned on this day, right? We're going to hold the broker on this day, and then we'll get it on the market, right? So these are the immediate things that are going to happen next. It's kind of like when I'm meeting with an agent, right? Maybe a newer agent. Hey, you know what? Here's what's next in the process after talking to you, right? If you're ready to join, we're going to get the independent contract agreement out to you. We're going to get the command registration to you. We're going to get you signed up for the board, and we're going to get your DRE license. I'm not going to go into all the onboarding stuff that we do with an agent at that point, because it's like it's overkill and they're not going to remember any of that stuff anyway. So in small bits, here's the immediate things that we need to take care of first, and then once that's done, we go. Here's now what's going to happen next. Right? All right, so let's kind of break this down. So here's what you do in consulting with the city. I'm going to go through this stuff fast, so we can condense this down and get finished with. So you do needs analysis and walkthrough and a home walk. So this is for a seller, not a buyer. So this is what you do for a seller. What's important about the needs analysis?
Oh, because then you know their motivation. And what-
Right? And this is an example that I always give, and it's like, okay, anybody again, functionality versus community. Hey, you know what? Hey Joe, why do you want to say? I want to move down to Florida. Cool, what's down to Florida? My daughter's name. Oh, that's awesome. Right? That functionality or for each.
Well, you're gonna continue.
But what if I don't? So that's more functional. No, other people will stop. Hey, why do you want to move? Oh, I'm moving to Florida. You want to move to Florida? My daughter's cool, that's awesome. Right? Versus, hey Joe, why do you want to move? I want to move to Florida. Hey, why do you want to move to Florida? Well, my daughter's dating. Oh, cool. What's important about being in close proximity to your daughter? You know, she's getting ready to have a child and really want to be there to help support her, when that. What's really important about that? Well, you know, didn't have a really great relationship with my grandparents growing up. She lived far away, and I always felt like there was something missing there, and I always said to myself, that's never gonna be the case, for my kids or for my grandkids. And so, so it sounds to me like family is really, really important.
Conversation, clear the conversation.
Yeah, so
We can find the poverty over there, do you need any help, we have big office over, you know, if you can keep going with it, gentlemen.
what I'm saying is, the difference is basically, you can scuba dive or you can water. You want to scuba dive, you want to get really deep so we can find out what's really important.
That's how it's done, there's a trust.
Not
So now I basically know is, so the ultimate goal here is to get out of this house so that you can be down in Florida, so that you can be there for your daughter. And be with your coming grandchild that's gonna be born. That's what's the most important thing. Yes, awesome, cool, so the goal is not to help you sell a house, the goal is to help you get in. Right? Now, what's it gonna take to make that happen? So I'm not even going into like listing prices or what they want for the house, and I was just talking to Maureen about this the other day, is what's it gonna take for that to happen? Like, what needs to happen as a result of selling this house to make that happen? Well, I want to put this amount of money as down payment on my house. Cool, on the new house that I want to buy. Hey, I want to pay off some credit card. Hey, I want to, you know, pay off our car from as a result of this house. So now basically I'm calculating or tabulating all of these numbers. And so it's like, okay, they want this, they owe this much money on the mortgage they have. They want to have a down payment of this amount. They want to pay, you know, X amount of credit card debt off, and they want to dump 50 grand into the savings, and that helps them. So if you accomplish all of those things, right, will that basically help you hit that goal that you have for yourself? Yes, cool. So in their mind, they needed $2 million they just had $2 million floating in their head. But in reality, they only need $7 million to accomplish their goal. So I'm going to basically then at that point say, hey, listen, now I know that you mentioned that you wanted $2 million from the sale of this house to accomplish everything you want to accomplish. It'll take you about you need to make 1.7. And the only thing I want to ask you is we get this house listed, right? What's more important to you, that $2 million number, or being down there for your daughter and when she had your grandchild? So, well, that's the most important. Cool, right? So you want 2 million, 1.7 accomplishes all of your goals. House is probably actually worth about 1.8, right? So $1,850,000. So we got about $150,000 spread from where you're at to where the market of the house probably sell at. You're going to accomplish all your goals if you get 1.7. So I got to ask you, what do you want me to prioritize? Getting that higher price or getting you down to 40? Finally down to 40. Okay, well then I would suggest we don't list it at $2 million. I'll sneak you closer to that 1.8 and some change. We agree? Okay, cool. And then later on, when we get into negotiations, if they're getting hung up on my $5,000, now I know their original motivations. Hey, listen, Joe, I know you don't want to pay $5,000 for repairs on this stuff, but are you willing to sacrifice having the busting this deal, going back out onto the market, trying to find a new buyer, maybe potentially delaying you getting down to Florida? What's worth more than you being down there for your daughter and your parents you had mentioned, and being down there next, within the next 2 weeks, or trying to save $5,000. Well, when you put it like that, that makes sense.
So I've seen it go for $5,000, believe it or not. Multiple places, something.
But it's like so you do the needs analysis in the home walkthrough, share who you are. So I got to introduce myself because ultimately, again, people do business with people who they know, like, and trust. For that to make sure that you know who I am. And this also establishes some of that stuff about your work experience, about your skill, about your knowledge, and that thing. I'm gonna explain my process. So this is really a listing presentation. Or this is what should be your listing presentations. So
Cooperative compensation.
yeah, so hey, explain your process. Hey, this is what I do, this is how I do it, and this is the value that it's gonna provide to you. And that's the big key, I think, with this, is we can explain all the different things that we do. Cool, none of that matters to me unless I know how that's gonna actually benefit me, right? How you get compensated, that's not cooperative comp there, so number 3 is a
Yeah.
little bit different, right? And that's why this is down here as well too. There's a little disclaimer. That's why there's a red star there. And so, hey, here's how I get compensated. You're gonna doing that process that I told you guys about just a little while ago. Is going to help you get better commissions. Because if I take you through the process of what you're, hey, I want you to list everything that needs to happen. You walk away and really accomplish all of your goals. Forget the sales price of the house. What do you want? In a perfect world, what do you envision happening for the sale of this house? What are you going to do with the money? Right? List all of it. Okay, why is that important? Why is that important? Why is that important? Why is that important? Right? Okay, how much is that going to cost? How much is that going to cost? How much is that going to cost? So now I got a total of this is the dollar amount that you need to get for the sale of the house in order for you to accomplish all of your goals. Right?
Does that sound right?
Awesome. So now I'm plugging my compensation into that number. And guess what? I can help that. This is awesome news. We can accomplish everything you want to, and that includes what you're going to pay. Right? So if they don't know exactly what's supposed to be, they just think, hey, I need $2 million. Cool. That can help you actually get everything you want. I'm going to actually walk you through to make sure that you're going to get everything that you want. And I'm going to make sure that my compensation is included in there. And if it falls into the thing where we can actually do it, cool. On the flip side of that's where I and here's what I did is when I would take them through that process, if paying me my commission wasn't going to help them accomplish everything they wanted to accomplish, but they were still willing to listen to me. Okay, cool. Maybe I come down from 2.5% to 2.25%, or maybe even in some cases 2%. Because you've agreed to join the team and your heart, and you're willing to take it at the price by telling you that hey, this is what the total value of everything is going to cost you, and you're going to come up about 20 grand short. Cool. Hey, my goal is to help you get what you want. If you're going to come up 20 grand short, and I'm going to make 80 grand on this property anyway, well, I'll get 20 grand up, and I'll reduce my commission down to 60 so that you get everything that you want. Right? Where I'm not going to reduce that to where I'm not going to reduce it is, hey, you know what? Selling a house, you need 1.7 and you want $2 million, and you're asking me to reduce my commission down to 2%. I'm not going to, so you're going to just get more. We're not a good fit, right? But you'll get into a less because here's the thing, if I take you through the process of what is super important to you, and I give you a plan on how you can get it, and I throw in there, hey, charging you 3% to help you get what you want, and you can pay for it, you're going to get less pushback on it, right? If I just blanket say, well, hey, I charge people 3%, okay, cool, right? So here's what I suggest you guys do for number 3, is don't talk to them about buyer compensation, right? Don't sit there and say, hey, you know what, we should offer 2.5% or 3% to a buyer's agent. Here's basically what I would advise you to tell every seller. Hey, you know what, let's not even talk about buyer compensation, right? Ultimately, I just want you to be open to potentially paying buyer compensation. Because the way to approach it is, we're trying to net you the most money, best terms, right? With the least amount of hassle. And ultimately, the best offer might come in where they're actually asking for the most money from the buyers. But at the end of the day, the manual submits an offer to me asking for 3%, and Maureen basically submits an offer to me asking for 1%. It would seem like it's a no-brainer that, hey, we're gonna take Maureen's client's offer, but his client's actually offering more money than her clients, and taking the manual 3% is gonna net the seller more money than Maureen's clients.
And
So it has nothing to do with paying buyers compensation or not. It's what's going to, we're gonna look at all offers that come in as a whole. And we're gonna see what's the best one with the best price, best terms, and the best net to you, regardless of whether or not they're asking for buyer compensation. So I just want you to keep an open mind. Right? That's all I'm basically telling people. So I wouldn't even talk to percentages or anything like that.
So when you do the seller's net sheet, you're gonna do it roughly, could be that amount or this amount, if the buyer is asking for.
Yeah, so this one wants the net sheet. And I just put a net to a buyer's agent of 3% on there. And I'm not going to necessarily say, I'm gonna just tell the sellers. Plus, or and then maybe I put a little note down there or something. It's gonna be, here's probably what the net is plus or minus, an extra $50,000, right? Because we may or we may not have to buyer's agent commission. Well, I don't want to pay a buyer's agent commission. Well, if you got an offer that was asking for buyer's agent commission, we're going to net you the most money you can pay. Probably, yeah. Okay, cool. So I'm not asking you to pay. I'm not asking you to commit to it. I'm not really want conversation about percentage.
Yeah. Because you don't want to put their hopes up too. They might break the deal.
And this is something that I basically am telling people right now too, is I wouldn't even mention as a buyer's agent commission. Buyers are going to potentially be asking for a concession. Part of that concession might be used for closing costs, part of that concession might be used to help them pay their buyer's agent. And so all deals potentially come with concessions. And so again, and that's what I'm saying, it's crass. I'm not paying a buyer's agent's commission. Cool, I'm not asking you. But all offers that are going to come in are going to be asking for some sort of concessions. And it might not be a pay buyer agent, right? So an unrepresented buyer that basically, hey, I'm going to represent myself on my own. Right? So just want you to keep an open mind that when a deal comes in, we're going to look at the offer in its whole entirety to see what one is going to give you the best price with the least amount of hassle, with the best terms and then the most money. That's it. Right? And then the pros and cons of leveraging the MLS. So why you should or should not potentially go on the MLS. Okay. And number 4, you're going to go through the home valuation process. So you're going to explain the market home's value range. And so, hey, comps are showing this between this price and this price. How long it might take to close to sell and close the property? Here's typically what we're taking for listing periods. Explain what things might have to be done to get the desired price range. Hey, I know you want $2 million. Then the house down the street was closed at $2 million, and the houses are roughly the same size, but they remodeled their kitchen, they put a new roof on, they got a brand new water heater, and then all the flooring was new. And you haven't done any of those. So if we want to get to that price point, we're going to probably right. And then calculate, show the seller net sheet. So here's what you can expect on the sale of the house. And then ultimately, I get, again, consulting to the decisions, leadership is teaching people how to think so they can make it the decisions they need to make, help them achieve things that they want to achieve. So I guided you and explained to you and given you the information and giving you the value. And then number 6 is basically now falls on my report. Right? I'm not sitting there saying list property, you've got all the information in front of you. If you want to accomplish your goal, feel confident that we can help you accomplish your goal based on all the things that we just went over. And are you ready to go or not? Right? And if you are, cool. So if you're not, it's fine too, but ultimately, you gotta do what's in your best interest. Right? It's the same thing with the conversation with agents, right? At the end of the day, I don't approve it. It's like, hey, let's get together, let's talk about your business. And, you know, here are the things that are important to you, here's how we can help you do those things. Now do you want my help or do you not? And the answer is okay, it's either one of those things, and if you are, cool, let's go. If not, well, then that's fine too. Okay? So maybe their best decision for the house. And then you review and sign the listing agreement with seller conditions. Any questions about that? Right? So if any of these things are missing from your listing presentation, I would make sure you go back to this sheet and add those in, because this is a good list. All the information here, this is a good list. Right? Anybody do anything different for this?
I never really talked about leveraging in MLS. It's interesting, but I have 2 clients now that do know. So that would be really important. You know,
Why?
First, private, they don't want people to at all, they don't want people to see their.
Yeah, but that's why you go over the pros and cons, because it's like, okay, cool, I understand that. But at the end of the day, right, by having it on that MLS, it's gonna expose it to more buyers, it's gonna expose it to all the agents that are out there. And the more buyers that we attract to the property is going to create more demand on your property, which that should drive the price up and get you more money. Cool, that's not important to me, my privacy is more important to me, so boring, I got that, I understand it all, but at the end of the day, I would prefer not to have it on the MLS, because privacy is more important. Okay, cool. Now I understand, I'm giving you all the pros and cons of each, right?
No, that's good. Not listing down on MLS, pictures.
Oh, yeah, no.
You know.
But at the end of the day, it's understandable. And I'm okay with making less money, it's just, here's the reasons why we want our privacy, this is why that's important. Okay, cool, well then let's figure out a plan to help us get what you want, or at least get what you need, and keep it off the MLS. Or they say, hey, no, I want the most money I can, well, hey, this is why it's gonna be a benefit to you. All right.
Crazy.
So stage 2, marketing a property. So get the property ready to market, do the necessary repairs and or improvements. So we've got the listing. So step 1 was how you're going to get the listing. Here's step 2 for the seller process. Let's get the property ready. So we're going to do the necessary repairs and improvements. We're probably not going to do them ourselves, but we're going to make sure we're going to be project managers, right? We're going to help them declutter and stage the property if necessary. So 1, we're just getting ready to do, right? Number 2 is we're going to create a marketing plan and the assets. So you got to get the photos, the videos, the floor plan, the website, the flyers and postcards set up, the social media assets we're going to use, and then a listing binder for the property. So those are the things that we create. And then we're going to run our marketing plan. We're going to promote coming soon to our database and to other real estate agents that are out there. We're going to market to the MLS. We're going to attract showings, and then we're going to create a buyer frenzy to hopefully get multiple to get you the highest and best price. Right? So if you don't have it written down, this slide, you could theoretically go in, steal this slide, and this is going to be my list.
So who's here to go on that's gonna help with number 2?
Which one?
Marketing. Marketing.
Oh, the marketing, yeah.
Because I mean, so far I've done it. You know, it's
You hire a photographer. It's gonna be-
yeah, that's fine, but the website and
They do the personal website for you,
who?
the photographer. At least the
So yeah, we have some photographers that will go out and do all this stuff. So if you want professional photos, like we don't necessarily do it in-house, so we have vendors or affiliates that will basically go and do almost all of this.
What's-
Social assets is like a social media. So I'm gonna market your properties. Yeah, and so how much, I got a bunch of simplest stuff, but
Just,
I mean, what would we see something actually you can actually say?
how much one?
3 and 4 at the bottom?
Okay, track showing to create a multi-optimal, I mean, this is not necessarily anything, all this stuff should be this.
Right. So, how would, or why would it be listed?
Well, it's getting just listed.
Yeah, so we're gonna run our marketing plan, so the thing is, we're gonna get all of these things done. Right, so it's not this is not really an activity, this is gonna be the results of all the other stuff. Right?
Well,
And then we can add some stuff in here too. Hey, you know what? We're gonna hold some open houses. We're gonna hold some brokers opens here, right? I'm gonna be, sending, messages out to my, my database. I'm gonna be running some ads on Facebook or Google. You can get creative there on tracking stuff.
Very well, or the property has something to do that.
I mean, part of that's gonna be, it's gotta be price walls.
this is good, then I just copy this. Put it in my rule.
So this is what we do, hey, you've got the house listed, right? You've marketed it well, now we got offers. So here's what's gonna happen when we get offers, we're gonna negotiate a contract, so I'm gonna present all offers to the seller, right? We're gonna create net sheets, so you know how much you'll walk away with. And then maybe that's what I would do is, hey, here's 3 different net sheets. Here's one if you don't have to pay buyer comp, here's one if you do. And then, here's one, at 3%, here's one at 2.5%, here's one at 1%, and whatever like that. Yeah.
we'll put the escrow.
Yes.
On the sheets.
So, and then we're going to review the qualifications of the buyer. So here's how much you can make from each offer. Here's how well one of these buyers are qualified, right? And then here's the pros and cons of each one of the offers. So this is what I like about this one. This is what I don't. This is what I like about this one. This is what I don't. Hey, you know what? I know that you said you didn't want to pay buyer compensation. This one's not asking for buyer compensation. Your net's can actually be 1.4. This one's asking for 2.5%, but the buyer's willing to pay a little bit more. They actually are qualified by a more reputable lender. They're local to the area, and you're going to actually make a little bit more on this, right? So you're going over the pros and cons of each one of the offers, and then we're going to negotiate the contract. And we can negotiate things. Here's the things that we can negotiate. We can negotiate terms, we can negotiate personal property. Hey, I really like that,
Outdoor furniture.
how you have, they said it was like perfect. Ultimately we can negotiate personal property, negotiate things like the condition or the repairs on the house, and we can negotiate buyer agent compensation capital. Right? So, and that's where, again, going back to that, I'm not even talking to you about buyer agent. So when we're going to look at all these things in its full, what's going to make the most sense, right? And then we're going to navigate due diligence. We're going to open escrow. We're going to review the inspection and possible require requests, and we're going to meet milestones on a contingency. So we're going to put a calendar together of all the dates for you and make sure that we meet all of those. Okay? So does it make you feel good if you're a seller knowing exactly how this process is going to work?
People have no question.
We still have a question, but it's gonna be a lot less. Okay. So this is what we're going to do for it. So, hey, my listing presentation, here's going back to the first one. Here's how we're going to help you make a decision. Here's how we're going to work with your product. Here's what we're going to do when it comes time to negotiate. Right? And then stage 4 closing system. And the goal of stage is to finalize in front of the sale. So here's what we're going to do here's what's next, right? So when we're talking about here's what comes next, this is kind of the thing. Stage 1, then what's going to happen after stage 1, stage 2, then what's going to happen after stage 2, stage 3, and then here's what's going to happen after stage 2, stage 4. Right? So we're going to coordinate with the title attorney and all parties to track on the closing date. We're gonna review the closing package with the seller, including the seller's closing statement. We're gonna prep the seller to move, help with packing, moving, cleaning, and shutting off utilities. We're gonna confirm all closing conditions, including conveyances and repair. And then we're gonna close and verify funding and conduct it. So this is what will happen after, the close, when we get to the close test. Pretty straightforward. And these are all things that most of us all know that we do these. But it's all, here it's laid out. And then this is, really what the class is asking you to do is looking through these stages, right? All of these things, if you look at it, really are tests. How do I do it in an easier way? Right? And that's what I suggest you guys do is go back through all of this stuff and then say, hey, listen, in stage 1, explain the process, right? Whether you offer, hey, pros and cons of leveraging MLS. I can simply state the pros and the cons, but by me telling them why each side potentially could be important, that's being a fiduciary, right? Hey, you can list it on the MLS, you list it on the MLS, most buyers, potentially, if you get most buyers, potentially you'll get more money. Right? Cool, that's something. You can call that. What's your personal situation? Right? Is it surprisingly more important to you? Or getting the most money more? Here's the pros of if you tell me that getting the most money is the most important to you. Here's why we want to go on to this. If getting, hey, you're a little bit more private, got it, understand that. I want you to understand that if you do that, you're going to get less buyers and potentially less offers, which means you'll probably get less money for the house. What do you want to do? Right? So going through each one of these items and saying, hey, if I'm looking at, if this was me, what would I want to know? And how would I handle this in each particular situation? Where I'm showing empathy, and I'm going back to that circle of trust. In each one of these things that's listed here, how am I, showing empathy here? How am I showing competency here? How am I showing transparency here? And how am I basically showing my dependability on each one of these things? And I need to articulate that in listening. Right? So the seller client experience. Seller client experience is the impression that comes with every interaction in getting the listing agreement to the closing sale. The client experience is made up of 3 ingredients around their selling journey: what happened on it, what they think about it, and how they feel about it. That's super important. Because what's the most important thing at the end of the transaction?
How they feel about
100%. Nothing else matters. Because even if you think they accomplished their goal, how do they feel about the whole experience? And no matter what you think, that doesn't matter. Because what really matters is what they think or what their perception. And so you got to ask yourself, hey, what happened on this journey? What do they think about, what happened? And how do they feel about it? How do they feel about it's the most important? If they feel good, you're not getting repeat referral business. And if they feel great, you're probably going to get repeat referral business. So I'll make sure they have a good experience. So as you design the seller client experience, think about the 3 ways they experience it during those moments. How you appear, am I showing up with flip-flops and a ratty t-shirt to my open houses? How you act, acting professionally and showing that I care, and then how you communicate your math. Right. All right. So seller surprise and delight, the extra things you could. The agent that deliver the best experiences build surprise and delight into those experiences. Get the job done without being remarkable. There's nothing remarkable. I love that quote. Right? So surprise and delight, if you do that right, it's going to deliver the 3 R's. You're going to get reviews, you're going to get high ratings, and you're going to get referrals, which you're going to get more business. So what do you think it means by surprising and delight?
in of something extra that they weren't expecting.
Yeah, give them something they weren't expecting that they're going to really. Hey, you know what, maybe my buyer or something like that had a really, really stressful week. Something went crazy with the loan. Nothing that was even my fault, right? We got it fixed, but there was a lot of stress. And so rather than me just saying, "Ooh, we got through this, or we navigated that line, so we're good." Hey, listen, Lori, I know this was a really stressful week, and you know what, I got you, and your husband, some gift certificates to go down to the spot. There.
Yeah, I said that, and you know what, they never used, I have the biggest percent,
Right,
they never.
yeah. Well, I mean, but it could be anything, it doesn't matter, so, they never used it to get papers. Okay. Or, hey, you know, dinner's on you. Or, you know, maybe at the close of the transaction, rather than the gift basket that, you know, is great. Maybe during our, you know, really deep conversation, I find out Eric's a, you know, huge, massive Dodger. I don't know if you're really a Dodger fan or not, but I know Eric loves baseball. Right? So maybe a closing gift instead of like, you know, a gift basket is, hey, here's boxes for you and your kids to go to the Dodgers.
That's right.
Right? And it doesn't, again, what's important about this is you want to look for moments, and it doesn't need to be big things, and it doesn't always need to be gifts, but where are moments during the course of the transaction, not just in where everybody's kind of expecting closing gift,
Yeah.
right? But 3 or 4 times during the closing, I'm gonna look for different areas where I can, you know, surprise and delight. Hey, there's coffee on me this morning. Right, or hey, here's dinner on me, or hey, get that massage, or hey, here's that baseball, right?
Something else, I mean, like, that's another way to, for you to know how well you're learning to know your client.
Yeah, or hey, you know what? I know there's gonna be a lot on your plate moving in and out of town, right, when you move in. So here's car care service for the next 3 months.
Or like, you know, she was, she sold her business, so I left, like a little flower thing and they like drink, so some. I don't know, but she was just. Oh, and I wrote on there, you know, congratulations for, you know, selling her business.
Or, you know, what would have been cool is if there was a piece of the business like a, you know, a brick or something like that.
But
And you put it in a frame or you put it in some sort of. Just something that is like, hey, I'm really thoughtful and thinking of you, and it's not that I didn't reach out to my normal closing gift company or my normal company to look a box and send you the same thing that I sent.
Yeah. That's her. Totally.
So sell a menu of services. Says once you've determined your core services, client experience, and how you intend to surprise and delight them, you must decide how you want to compensate. So there's pluses and minuses for all this stuff. And one of the things that's on here is kind of like bundling or unbundling. Right? So hey, we're going to take all the things that we put together and here's my price. Or you can unbundle the services too. You basically say, hey, listen, I'm giving you options. You want platinum, you want gold, or you want silver? Right? For you know, platinum, here's all the things that are on here, and I do all of these things. If you want to pay me a little bit less, right? Kind of going in this, if somebody added me, hey, I'm only going to pay you a percent. Cool, I'll take a percentage. But here's what you're going to get. I'm not doing platinum service for a percent, right? I'm willing to come down to the price, but here's what you're going to say.
Yeah.
I don't sacrifice those things. Cool, you got to pay me 2.5%. So I won't do that for a percent. I'll do this for I won't do that. Right? But I'm not sitting there saying, hey, it's 2.5% or 3% or nothing. Cool. I'm willing to, you know, take a listing at a cheap price.
You gotta advertise yourself.
Right? But here's what you're going to get for that. It's going to be different. Right? And somebody didn't take this, but there are a lot of agents, you know, are starting to kind of adopt more things like this as well too, to be a little bit more competitive. It's like, hey, listen, if you don't want, you know, the house listed in the Wall Street Journal, and you don't want the customized property website, and you don't want me to put $20,000 like, you know, brokerage tour and all this stuff, cool, I'll skip out on all of those things. And this is what it'll cost. You want platinum? Cool. You want gold? Cool. You want silver? Cool. Thing is, it's funny when you offer people different options, they always want the best option for the most part. Right? It's just they want the option, and then but then see if there's no option, I only can decide on that. Now you're giving me 3 options. I want the best and I want the most. I want to be cheap, especially like in the market. Yeah. I don't want to be a cheap guy. I want a platinum service. Cool, this is what it costs. Well, I don't want to pay it. Cool, well, then if you want to pay that, then we'll do this. I don't need to pay this. But that it costs this. You want the magic, right? You got to pay for the magic.
I like that.
Otherwise, go to Redfin,
Yeah.
and pay 1%.
Yeah, I mean, if you want a Redfin experience, well, I mean, I'll do the Redfin experience for you, but that, all you're gonna get is the Redfin experience. Right? And some of our top agents kind of have taken those, you know, those, I remember I was listening to Ben Kinney talk a couple of years ago, and Ben's probably the top agent in the world, his team sells like 5,000 a year. But he's like, I hate Redfin. And he's like, if they come into my neighborhood, try to get my properties listed away from me, I will go down, I'll make sure, I'll even take a small loss on a listing, just so that they don't get them into my neighborhood. Right? So, but is Redfin going to offer the same services? Probably not. I'll go down 1%, but you're going to get competitive 1% service. Right? If you don't want a full boat service and pay me 3%, I'm not going to force you to pay that. So maybe you don't want it, just
How to go to work with each other.
right? Well, you could say that, or you could say, hey,
Out of those words.
hey, here's your option. Here's your choices. Which one do you want? Now I'm letting you choose. And people really kind of like that too, because now you're giving me, because you're telling me it's 3% or nothing. Like, which one I want to pay you or to work. Where it's like, hey, you're saying, you know, John, I'll do this for 3%, I'll do this for 2%, I'll do this for 1%. Which one do you want? Well, I want the most. Okay, cool. Let's do 3%. We get it down just a little bit. Okay, I'll come down to 2%. I ended up where I wanted to. Right? But you chose. You have the ability to choose. And you chose you want the most. Okay? All right, cool. So bundling pricing. Bundling for single price value is simply taking your core services, client experience, and surprises in life and charging one price per percentage point. I charge 3% of that. Cool. Or unbundling is I charge you X if I bring the buyer. I charge you X if I bring the buyer. Or so if you bring the buyer, this is what I'm going to charge. I bring the buyer, this is what I'm going to charge. I charge, 1% if someone else brings the buyer. I charge 5% if I buy an additional property through me. I charge X for this bundle of services. I charge X for the first bundle of services plus the additional ones, and then I charge X for the first and second bundle of services plus the additional. So you can do this. This is what's cool about this. Is you can do anything you want. Right? So going back to your guy, I don't want to pay 1.5% or 1%. Okay, cool. That's what we're gonna get.
Right. Well, it was 2.5, but I have to give the attorney 1%. So it's really 1.5. Well,
Yeah.
but it's 2.6, so.
Cooperative time. We're gonna skip over this slide. We already talked about this already anyway. This is one of my favorite slides in the. So it's 13 reasons seller wants a buyer represented by professional real estate. Right? So I'm not going to suggest that you pay buyers agent come. I'm just going to simply give you this list and say, or maybe I don't even give you this, right? So I say, hey, listen, Maureen, in terms of buyers and agents and comp, let's not even talk about that, because ultimately, you know, buyers are going to submit an offer, all the buyers are going to submit an offer. All of their offers are going to have some sort of concessions, which may or may not include buyer agent comp. We're going to look at all of the offers in whole, and as a whole, and whatever's going to give the one that's going to be the most net to you, best terms, and with the least amount of hassle, will probably be the one that we should take. And if she says, cool, cool, she said, no, about not wanting to pay buyers, no matter what, cool, I hear you, right? Just want you to keep an open mind to it, essentially, because if the best deal is going to make you the most money, is asking for buyers agents comp, then it might make sense. And here are a few reasons why you probably want to have somebody represented by a buyer's agent, right? And I'm going to leave it at that. But seller and the listing agent will work with a buyer's agent who's been fingerprinted and background checks. So when you're worried about somebody coming into your home, you know that the person that's coming into the home has already had background check going on, at least the person representing you, right? So you know who's coming through the home. If you're going to let an unrepresented buyer come through your home, you're not going to know anything about this, right? And then buyer's agent will serve as an intermediary. So rather than having to butt heads directly with the buyer, now you have the ability to have somebody that basically can, you know, reason with them and give them good guidance on things, right? Buyer's agent will safeguard the home, the seller's home during showings because they have a background check, because they're an ethical person, because they're a trusted already person. They're not going to let somebody just go in there and ransack their place as well too. Buyer's agent will ensure that the buyer is qualified to purchase the home, so they're not going to be submitting offers, you know, to somebody that's not a qualified person, because that's their due diligence to make sure that that's done. Or if you're working directly with a buyer and they're not being represented by an agent, you're not going to be doing that background check, right? Buyer's agent will work to ensure the buyer has cash available, so they're going to verify that there's cash available back to the buyers, right? Buyer's agent can provide feedback to the seller regarding prices and conditions will help them sell it. So if we don't get any buyer's agents in here to see the home, we can't get feedback on if we're priced right, or if the condition's right, or any of those things. So it'll be much harder for us to make adjustments on what we need to do with the house if we're not getting the feedback. Where available, the buyer's agent will use the correct forms to make sure that all of the stuff's legal, right? Seller and the listing agent will work with the buyer's agent who has agreed to a code of ethics. Buyer's agent is highly likely to be properly insured, which protects all parties. So you let a buyer into your house, look at the property, it's not an agent, they trip and fall, they're suing who? They're suing you, right? Or they trip and fall, it's an agent has their permission, insurance, and all that, and they're properly insured, then they're going to go through us. Buyer's agent will advise the buyer to write an offer that reflects current market conditions. So if a buyer is not represented by an agent and they don't know the market very well, you could get all kinds of wild offers coming in there. Where an agent is going to let them know, hey, those types of things may not fly, and they're going to advise them on how to write a competitive offer. Buyer's agent will provide a list of the best professional vendors to transact as smooth as possible. Where the buyer doesn't on their own, doesn't know good title companies or mortgage companies or escrow companies, then they could use people that aren't so good. Buyer's agent will guide the buyer through all the steps from inspection to closing, where there could be delays in here because the buyer doesn't know what they're doing and on their own, and that could cause problems. And the buyer's agent will work to ensure the buyer maintains their creditworthiness until the transaction is funded, because or as the buyer that is representing myself, I don't know all of the damage that can get caused to my credit by going in and opening up a credit card account while I'm trying to close an escrow, right? So these are all cool things that you can share with sellers on why they want to work with some of these representatives. And then the challenge for every individual seller is they can't directly impact supply and can only influence the demand. Other than price, there are 5 things that can be done to influence demand. So 1, ensure the property is in working condition by making repairs. Does everything work? Yes. Cool. 2, make strategic improvements such as updates, enhance aesthetics that are curb appeal. Present the home in a way that appeals to the most amount of buyers through staging, photos, and property description, leverage the MLS, and then consider offering cooperative compensation. All right. So those are all the things that they can do so we have no control over supply, but we do have some control, a limited control over demand. And these are the things that we can do to influence. If you want the most people interested. Cooperative compensation options, just skip over that. So summary for the sellers is determine the framework of your seller core service and strategy to execute them. After your framework and strategies are determined, add surprise and delight moments that engage the 3 R's. List the agent's core services embedded with the client experience and surprise and delight, engage an agent in deciding how they want to be compensated. And then just show up as a fiduciary during every seller service. Or your house message.
I love the way you broke it down. Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. I mean, I'm gonna
Yeah, I mean,
copy.
that would be the chapter.
Yeah, I mean, I have a list, but I think if we will. Make more.
Any questions about that?
I do have a question. This is like maybe the second or third time I've heard that. So our annual insurance that we would be paying, covered in case somebody falls on a property?
Well, you are insured. That there is, so that I know that was a big thing for a while on like holding open houses. And then like say for example, I'm an agent, Tree is one of my assistants, not really a licensed person, she's going and holding an open house. Something happened with that open house, so no coverage on it. Right? So the E&D does provide some level of service for us where we have to open that we work out. All right. We're gonna quickly go through backwards, and then that'll be. So buyers want pretty much the same thing sellers do. Just what?
Lowest price.
Why? Which is why dual agency doesn't work. Right? I'm not telling you whether we're doing dual agency or not. But if my job is to get Eric the highest price for his house, and my job is to get Drew the lowest price for the house she wants to buy, it's really hard to represent Eric and Drew at the same time. Right? So find the right property that meets their timing needs and gets it at the best price with the fewest amount of risk. So it's really the same thing that sellers want, just pay your bidding and the best price rather than the least. Right?
Well, yeah, I know.
It's impossible.
I'm thinking of one situation.
I know it's great, but it's impossible to be a fiduciary to both.
Stay at the same time. I have a friend of mine who's looking for something similar. The seller was firm about the price, and my friend knew what he's looking for, and he's trying to negotiate. I couldn't bring him to. I didn't even mention it, because they knew the position that the seller might think.
Who you fighting?
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe I'm not bringing offers, so my friend will come in with a lower price. I don't want to put myself in this position, and I just, I sold the house and we got him another property. I didn't even mention it. I didn't bring them both, which is at some point I was desperate to bring it.
Yeah.
To take the property.
Yeah, the only time that the only time I did dual agency, and again, I'm not saying to do it or not do it, but because everybody can run their own business the way that they want. The only time I did it was I had a listing, and it was a rental property that I was selling for the landlord. And I had an investor reach out to me and say he wanted to put an offer on the property. I told the investor I don't do dual agency, and the investor said I only work with listing agents. So if you don't put the offer in, he's like, I want the house. If you don't put the offer in, I'm just not going to write an offer. And so I said, well, I told him it's really hard to be a good fiduciary to both sides, and he goes, I'll make it easy. He said, this offer that I make is the only offer that I will make. And if your clients try to counter me, I won't even review it. Like, this is my highest and best deal. They either take it or they leave. And so in that particular case, I went to my seller, said, hey, listen, here's an offer. Guy's an investor. Said he's hard line, that basically any counter to this at all won't entertain, taking it. So I'm not saying you take it, you can stay on the market, but here is an offer, but it has to be under these terms. Otherwise, he said there's no negotiation if the counter said he wants to see you, right? That was a good offer, right? So the seller did. So I was saying that was like the only time that I didn't do agency, because there wasn't a no negotiation there. It was like, where's my offer taken out early? Right? And I told us, we don't have to take this, stay on the market or whatever like that. But here's an offer, and if you want it, it's here. There's no negotiation. He told me before we even submitted it, any counter will be rejected. Right? So in that case, I didn't really have, I did my fiduciary because that was the deal the buyer wanted. And I let the seller know we don't need to take this deal, but there is no negotiation there, otherwise he walks. And do you want it? Yes, cool. Right? That doesn't happen very often.
Seller listing, where I don't. Where I don't.
And I know. The agent said, if you work with me, I'll make sure you get the house. And so I didn't say fight because my clients were out, so I kind of. That's a. But
Yeah, in that particular case, I would basically let my clients know. And here's one of the things to this. Again, I'm not saying don't do agencies. I know a lot of people like to do it, and that's fine for them. I'm saying I personally, and I dropped a landmine on you if you were somebody, because when I would go on a listing appointment, I always make sure this is something I practice and scripted and really made sure was part of my listing presentation. And it got me more listings than maybe I would have normally got. Is whenever we would get to the agency disclosure, like, so I would go over the agreement stuff with people. And we would talk about, how agency disclosure talks about the possibility of dual agency. I always would tell people, hey, listen, you don't need to worry about dual agency. It's my personal policy that I refuse to do it. And the reason I refuse to do it is because ultimately my fiduciary duty and helping you sell the house is to get you the highest price with the best. It's going to make you the most money. And I always would tell, even if I am like a Boy Scout that's the most honest person in the world, what's my job? My job for you is no seller to it. My job to you is to be the highest, the most money with the best terms. What's my job for a buyer? To get them the lowest price with the best terms. Even if I'm a Boy Scout, it's the most honest person in the world. How can I honestly accomplish that for you and accomplish that? And everybody would always be like, well, can't.
Or with someone that, just the same like it happened with you.
do you give that, when someone comes in, they want to work with you, do you give it to someone like me?
Yeah.
And do you get a referral fee for that?
Yeah. I'm not telling them to take that offer though either, it's, we're gonna take that.
Oh, right.
I want them, representation, and I want them, because my representation is here.
Right.
And so the thing is, and why that won me a lot of listings is, you know, I would point that out to them because a lot of them, you know, have never even thought about that.
But
And then they're like, hey, you know, yeah, you're right. If you're trying to get me the best price and the best terms. And then you're working with that person, you're trying to get them the best price and the best terms, somebody's gonna lose. Right? Because you're not gonna keep fighting for me and you're not gonna keep fighting for them, so somebody's gonna miss out. Technically, both people could miss out, right? Or worst case scenario, you actually fight for them a little bit more than you fight for me, and I feel like I'm getting screwed. Right? And so after I would point that out to people, I always smile because even if they didn't sign the listing agreement with me right there, because they were going to because maybe they were going to interview somebody else. I knew that by planting that seed, that was a question that they were going to ask to the next person.
Yeah.
Right? So I go through that with Maureen, and Maureen doesn't sign with me right away. And then but she comes in and interviews three. Maureen's gonna ask her what her policy is on the two ladies. And if it's anything other than I don't do it, in her mind, the tree is now cooked. Yeah.
You give it to her, for example, in this scenario. Would that still be considered dual agency? You still have to disclose it because that is dual agency, and now that you.
Well, I mean, yeah, in that sense, but at the same time, I'm not representing the person, right?
Yeah, I don't disclose the.
But I know there are so many buyers, they go target listing agents,
That's true.
so many buyers, I know a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, they believe that that's the only
Because
way.
They think that you're gonna bargain with you. You're gonna work.
Yeah. Right?
But like John said, who's your fiduciary then? To the buyer?
Well,
or to the
It's gonna be
seller?
both.
It just so happened that I knew the buyer in one case. And she didn't really care about the price much, she wanted that house, no matter.
Well, and again, that's why I think it goes back to what your thing, or what their primary
Yeah.
objective is, because, hey, you know what, Maureen, I just want the house, I don't care what the price is.
Right.
Okay, cool, right?
So I don't
I
feel,
don't feel as bad, I'm still not necessarily the best fiduciary,
Right.
because even though we don't care what the price is, the job really is to try to be the best price. But because think about it, now you can sit there and say, hey, I'm super honest and I'm like, great, all this other kind of stuff. But if somebody comes and says, hey, Maureen, I don't really care what the price is, I want the house. Okay, cool. Now I get you the house and you're then get in, then you have maybe some remorse thinking that, hey, you know what, think about it.
she doesn't even, she thinks she's allergic to.
Yeah. So that's all I'm saying about it. Right?
I, that,
And then if you really want to clarify, like on the agency disclosure, dual agency is technically if the same deal is brought by the same brokerage. So that's what I always explain to people is, hey, dual agency is, if a buying agent has their own person and the selling agent or listing has their own person that's all under the same brokerage, that is technically considered dual agency. I don't mind that much because ultimately what's really important is that the buyer has their own representative and the seller has their own representative. And even though maybe that transaction is going to happen inside of the brokerage itself, it's still going to be two separate agents, right? So that's what I would explain to people. And I think the thing is kind of going back to like what I said. Dree comes in and she said anything other than I don't represent buyers and sellers on the same transaction. Right? Then Maureen's gonna be thinking they were in a you know, no way that that person's gonna fight for me if they're representing the buyer too, the way that they should. So, you know, she's not good. I don't want her. right?
She doesn't have my best interest.
Have you been, and I guess, because I'm trying to figure out as an agent how you would act, have you been ever tempted to take on the buyer, being as it's there, you were there, you're procuring costs for the buyers? I mean, you did open house, whatever, if I want to sign, please, and it's like, okay, I'm ignoring. You know, have you ever been tempted to do or persuade from what you said your personal conviction would be?
Well, the only times I've ever done dual agency was that one I explained, and then the only other time that I've ever done it is through the short sales. Short sales.
No, in most open houses, you get walk-ins with no agents. They ask them, do you have an agent? They say no. What are you gonna do in that case? You're gonna tell them, okay, no, we'll find an agent, or are you gonna grab it?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Hey,
I mean, I'm 100% gonna try to take it.
Yeah.
Not for that.
I've done millions.
If they would allow.
But I can see.
No, and I think it depends on a case by case basis, but typically that one investment scenario, I did both. And then, so it was actually in the best interest for both parties. Because the buyer was a savvy buyer, he's bought lots of houses, and this was his price, that's what he wanted to pay. He didn't want to negotiate, it's true, and it was time for the court. Short sales, I would double in short sales too. And the reason I would double in short sales is because who's my client?
The bank.
No, the court, not on short sale.
Oh, the
Not
short
on It's foreclosure my client's today. But who's my client on short sale?
I mean, you're.
It's
the
the
bank-
seller.
I mean, the bank is the seller.
But that's not who I have a contract. If it's a foreclosure that's bank owned, this is bank. But if it's a short sale, I'm doing all the contract stuff with self,
Well, yeah.
right? The bank has to approve it, but my client is. In a short sale scenario, what's the seller's? What is the seller want? It's not the highest price.
No idea what the cover the room.
They want out of that
Yeah.
force, right? And so ultimately, they don't care what the sales price is because they're not walking away with anything. Well, basically, we run comps and then we submit the suggested price to the bank and the bank approves the lowest price.
Usually go away.
And so, basically, in a short sale situation, I used to always like try to double in those, just because of the fact that a lot of times short sales take a long period of time to get through. And a lot of times we have to like really try to keep the buyer engaged because it's not a quick 30-day close. It could be like a 4 or 5 or 6 month close. And so it's kind of like I would tell my sellers, hey, listen, normally I don't agency, but in this particular case, if I find a buyer, I'm going to work with them because it's going to be easier to keep them tied to the transaction than if I'm trying to go through somebody else. Right? I'm the one talking to things. And then I have to relay the information to the buyers. And then the buyer's agent has to relay the information to the buyer. And hopefully that keeps them locked in. But it might not. And so if I'm talking to the bank and I can directly talk to the buyers, we have a much better chance of getting this. Right? And so those in that era during when we were doing a lot of short sales, I would do this. All right, buyer agency agreement. We've talked about this pretty much nauseam, so let's just kind of get into the core parts of this real quick. So I want to make sure we get you out of here in time. So essential conversations when explaining the buyer agency agreement. Explain what you charge and what you earn to do it. And we'll go over what you do in a second. And then explain how you get paid as well. Right? So let's go over the core services of the buyer. The buyer core services, this is what I do with my buyer. I can go to a decision, just like a listing, right? I'm going to consult you so that you can make the best decision so that you can accomplish your goal. I'm going to help you search for properties that fit the criteria that you want to do. We're going to help you find just the right house for you. And then we're going to negotiate the contract, and then we're going to close the sale. And again, the quote, the most powerful words in real estate are here's what happens next. So we're going to consult to the decision, then here's what's going to happen next. We're going to search for properties, and then here's what's going to happen next. We're going to find the perfect property. And then here's what's going to happen next. Right? So consulting to a decision, have a strategy session with your buyer, right? Identify their motivation, same thing we talked about, seller needs analysis. What do you want? Why do you want it? Why is that important to you? Right? And then basically explain your process. Here's what I do for buyers. Here's how I do that. And then here's how those things are going to provide value to you to help you get what you want. Here's what I charge to do this for you. And then here's the home buying process. So I'm going to educate you on the market and we're going to set expectations. Then we're going to get you pre-qualified. Then you're going to make a decision. Do I want to buy? Do I not want to? Maybe it's not in my best interest buyer. And that's okay. Right? We'll get you ready for when it is good. We're going to review and sign the buyer agency agreement. And then you're going to arrange finance. And so that's kind of what we need to do in order to get ready to actually take the property.
So if they, can I just ask a question, if they fill out on the bottom, if they cannot pay the bill, what do you do then?
They said they can't pay a broker, I'll still work with them. But I'm going to advise them that since they're unable to pay me any compensation, we're going to have to make a concession in the purchase price, asking the seller to pay to cover those costs. And if the seller is unwilling to cover those costs, then they're not going to be able to get that particular house.
Okay. That's fine.
Right? Because that's what's going to end up happening in some cases, is clients aren't going to get houses because sellers aren't willing to pay our compensation. Right?
That's such a hard,
But it doesn't need to be, because the thing is, you're unable to pay, so we need to ask a concession from the seller. And if the seller chooses to pay it, we're good. If the seller chooses not to pay it, it's just like any concession, right? Because hey, at the end of the day, you know what? You need to come up with 20% down, say for example, for a conventional loan. If you can't come up with 20% down, a mortgage broker isn't going to say, hey, you know, that's you don't need to pay any points, right? Because that's not going to get into the house. You just want to be able to get into that particular house. Right? Same thing here is if you can't pay for my costs, we can ask the seller to do it, and if the seller is not willing to do it, then you just can't afford that house. I mean, I'm not going to put it to somebody else, but it's not different than it's like you're going to go out and buy a $2 million house for 1.8. If the seller is unwilling to come down to 1.8,
right,
same thing here. If the seller is unwilling to pay me because you can't, then we don't get the house. You can't afford it. If you could afford to pay me, then it wouldn't matter what the seller was offering or not offering. You could just pay me. But if you can't, then the seller is not willing to pay for it. We're not going to get that. Yeah, and that's so. I mean, I think that box where they say, "Hey, they can't pay." Cool. I'm not going to not go for a buyer that says they can't pay. I'm just going to let them know there's going to be a chance that the seller won't pay, and if the seller won't pay, then they're not going to be able to get that particular house. We'll just have to keep looking for houses until we get one that's served and it's a preference.
a particular buyer right now that I'm working with, that I worked for years, she does what they call a reverse mortgage buy. So they give her money to buy the house.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So I don't know if reverse mortgage would cut me a part of that, but she can't make that decision.
Yeah.
She doesn't have, I mean, she's, really using the market. to be
Yeah.
honest. She plays we did a fight.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, if it's working for her, it's working for her.
I know, she only pays the taxes, but she doesn't have money,
Yeah.
so
Buying houses with no money. Very good. Right.
she works the system, and I hate that.
So after we can come to a decision on whether they should buy or not, then we search for properties. So, we do not want to be a passive. We don't want to wait for the buyer to call us requesting that they see a house. Right, we want to be the person who helps them find the house they want. Right, so here, talk about value. Right, hey, you know what did we do for me, Maureen? Why find homes for you to go look at? Cool. Okay, and that versus, hey, you know what, John, I understand there's Zillow or whatever you might be searching on your own, and that's fine. You can search on your own. I'm going to be searching too. And in addition to searching the MLS, right, we're going to get you on an MLS auto search. We're going to find, houses that you like, and we're going to find open houses for you. In addition, I'm also going to search for on the market houses that are not in the MLS, right? Because those aren't going to necessarily show up on Zillow. So I'm going to make 80 calls. So I'm going to call all the agents around here to find out if they have any coming soon deals that aren't on the market yet, right? I have a networking group where I have a group of people I know or investors I know that are buying houses all the time. So I'm going to contact all of them to see if there's any properties that they might be looking to sell. I'm going to search for FSBOs, and then I'm going to search for new construction that's not on the MLS. I'm going to reach out to my sphere and see if anybody's thinking about selling properties. So cool. The average agent is going to set you up on the MLS search. I'm going to set you up on the MLS search, and I'm also going to go find properties that aren't even listed yet, where you won't have competition. Right? And then I'm going to prospect off market houses homeowners will be willing to sell. So an agent that I worked for when I lived in Washington, she was a dominant listing agent, and that's what she did. She leveraged the buyers that she had to get her listings. So she was better than anybody I've ever seen at basically saying, hey, I have a buyer looking for exactly what your house is for you on this. Right? And then she would just keep reaching out to people that had the houses that the buyers were looking for, and she would like get listings that I have a buyer for you. Right?
It's true. You really did have a buyer.
So make calls, door knocks, and direct mailing, social media ads, and posts, search any wood sales in your database. And I love the thing that, there's not much I like about Zillow, but there's one thing I do like about Zillow that they used to have. I don't think they have it anymore, but it was my move price. Okay. There was something on there where if you were a homeowner, you could log into the house that was yours and put in the Zillow what price it would take for you to consider selling the house. Right, and so that's basically,
Richard doesn't.
you're making moves price, right? So, hey, listen, Maureen, I meet you in an open house, or somebody your neighbor been through. No, you're probably not looking at selling your house, but just off the top of my head, because there's a lot of interesting buyers in this neighborhood, and nobody, there's not even enough houses to all the buyers. Price would trigger you to say, hey, I would consider taking it on. What? Okay, cool. If I can find a buyer at $2 million, it'd be okay if I get your buyer. So I'm not even asking you to list your property, just have a simple conversation. You come in, hey, I do better. If I can find a buyer and pay the price that would make you move, what would that number have to be? $2 million. Cool. So as soon as your house is worth $2 million, I'm going to call. If it's not currently worth $2 million, when it gets to that point, I'm going to call.
I'd probably then say, would it be possible soon if I see your home?
Yeah.
See what we're looking
Yeah. And that's a really great way to go out there and meet with people. It's really low pressure because you're not asking them for a listing or anything like that. It's, hey, have lots of interested buyers that are interested in homes in the neighborhood. Not that you're going to probably even remotely think about selling anytime soon. But what number would I have to bring to you for you to say, you know what, I would consider selling the house if you give me that number? Because everybody has a number. I don't care who you. Because some of it's unrealistic. But if somebody came into me and said, you know, like you're saying, I'm never selling the company in the morning. But if somebody showed up saying, hey, John, I'm giving $2.5 million for that house.
I'm going tomorrow.
Whatever thing is we said, just like the website.
So 40 times something may not sell us. Yeah, the family house has been in the family for the last 200 years, and it's like a thing on campus or something like that. Maybe then, but even then, in a lot of those places, you know, it's like I don't want to sell it to my daughter. It's like, oh, I'm done with this. Right? So that's what that's one way where I think we can really present our value to potential buyers. So we can say, hey, I can find you properties that are on the list. Because a lot of them in their head are like, I can switch them on this too. That's no big.
Yeah,
But hey, if I can find you properties that are on the list, oh, that's pretty interesting, right? Stage 3, finding the house. Narrow down all that to find the right home to buy. So one, we're going to confirm that the list of properties are still available. Because a lot of times stuff doesn't get updated online, and so a lot of times people will get pissed off because they'll call in about a property. Oh, the property's already sold. Well, it's still showing exactly on the website, right? Oh, they probably just haven't changed them on that status yet and all that kind of stuff. So I do that for you. You don't need to worry about trying to schedule things and they're not being available. You know, we'll find the houses, we'll determine which ones we want to take a look at, I'll confirm the appointments and we'll be good. Right? It says if more than one house asks the buyer to rank the houses, so I want you to rank the houses in order of the ones that are the most appealing to you. Right? Why is that important?
one is available and the other one is not.
We want to see the one that's most valuable, the one that they like best first, because if we wait till last, the one they like the best might not be available, especially in a hot market. Right? Second thing is it can eliminate you having to show a bunch of houses. Because if we look at the one that they like the best first, and then number 2, and then number 3, and then number 4, then we might, if they fall in love with number 1, because that was the one, then we don't gotta look at all. So it saves me a lot of time as well too. Right? And then review the buyer's wants and needs worksheet, top rated and ranked houses. So I'm going to say, okay, hey, listen, you know, rate the house. If there's more than one house, rank the houses. Okay, do these match up with the needs and wants that you said you wanted? Cool. I'm going to help you not only find the house, but we're going to help you make sure that it's the right one for you guys. Okay. And then we're going to run CMAs to determine a pricing strategy. Okay, cool. Anybody can help you find the house. You don't even need an agent to help you find the house. I'm going to also help you price the house correctly so that you can make a competitive offer. Right? And then we're going to review all the disclosures and documents and verify information. So I'm going to help you navigate going through all the stuff about the house so you don't walk into a situation where the house is not, you know, has surprises or the money pit or something like those things. So I'm going to be there to help review those things with you. And then we're going to, you know, write, you know, we're going to go through the steps of writing it off. Right? And then step 4, negotiating the contract. So when I be putting all of this stuff into my heart, these are all the things that I do. Right? I'm going to gather data, and we're going to talk about how this data is important in helping you write the best offer. We're going to refresh in May, so we got the most up-to-date price and give you the most competitive in the price. We're going to make additional disclosures and documents that might have been available. We're going to write an offer. We're going to discuss what's the best price, what's the terms that you're looking for. Is there any personal property on the house that maybe is the seller is going to take that we want to try to keep, right? Like outdoor furniture. Is there I'm going to help you determine the condition of the house and if there's any repairs. And then, you know, in order to help with the compensation, we negotiate having the seller use part of the proceeds from the sale of the house to pay my compensation, so they need that as a cost. Right? And then we're going to deliver the offer. We're going to negotiate terms with the seller, and then we're going to navigate due diligence. We'll open escrow and title. We'll notify the lender that we're in contract. We'll do our property inspections. We'll negotiate any repairs from the inspections that we find. We'll make sure that we're meeting all the contingency calendars. And then we'll work with the listing agent to resolve any disputes between you and the seller. And then we'll close that. So this is what I do for you. Not only do I, help you find what you want and search for properties, but then we get into the, we help you with negotiating the contracts. Step 5, closing sale. So we're going to coordinate the appraisal and clear mortgage conditions. We're going to coordinate the title and attorney and all parties to contract on the closing date. I'm going to get you utility information so we can get all the utilities set up, because nobody wants to walk into the new house they just bought and not have any air conditioning with 100 degrees outside in August. Right? We're going to review the closing package with the buyer, including the buyer's closing statement. So here's what all the costs are going to be. We're going to conduct a final walkthrough and make sure that the house is in the condition that you expect it to be in. And then we're going to close verify funding, and we're going to get the keys. And you're going to move in, and then you're not going to not see me every time. You want to make sure that you live beautifully in the home that you bought.
And
Right?
follow up.
So number 4 for including the buyer closing statements, you're gonna get some data from the loan officer.
Yeah. Yeah. You're going to reach out to because that's the. Because especially newer buyers, a lot of them understand this because they really.
Sellers too.
Yeah, they get their estimate.
Yeah, so a lot of them don't understand operation. So, and then buyer client experience, how you do it, same thing. It's the same thing that the first one was. How you appear, how you act, and how you communicate. That's what's super important.
You have like a paper on referral. Have them fill out a referral.
And then,
Another one.
Yeah.
and then you want to make sure that we're surprising and delighting our buyers. Right? This, hey, you know what? We got our offer accepted. Cool. You know what? Rather than not doing anything or saying congrats, hey, here's Bubba's campaign, right? Or your dinner or whatever. Right? Hey, we got we negotiated all the request for the repairs. What a relief! Oh my gosh! Here's the movie, right? Or whatever. So looking for areas where you can just do small things to where it's like, hey, that was really awesome. Hey, you know what? I know you're probably on the day that they move in. It's not a closing gift. Maybe the day that they move in. I know you're hard. It's busier. It's hard to getting all the stuff moved. Thought I'd take care of dinner for you and have a pizza. Right? Just small things that are like that was really cool. Right? Summary of buyers. Determine the framework of your buyer service and your strategy will take executed. After your framework and strategy are determined, add surprising delight moments will gain you the 3 R's. Buyers and agents core services embedded with the client experience and surprising delight moments aid you in deciding how you will be compensated. And then make sure that you're going through again each one of these things. These are all things I can do, but they're all things that anybody can do. How am I going to do those to create an exceptional experience? Because I can again deliver copies, or I can deliver coffee to somebody before. Right? I'm going to ask you about this. I'm going to ask you about it. Ask you just how you like just how you like your coffee as far as that goes. I'm going to engage you in a funny story, or maybe I'm going to do a spin while I give you that cup. Something that you thought. Again, make it a different experience, or that's how I like to be treated when I go in and get my cup. Right? Where's my hospital in this?
May not to be a door agent.
Well, again, I'm not saying not probably.
I'll do the other half.
At the end of the day, it's like, okay, cool. Buyer comes in. I'm not going to represent you because I'm representing the seller and I owe them a fiduciary duty. I'm going to give you your own representation, and then I get a referral.
Yeah, what's the referral like percentage?
25%. I mean, I would think. It's just anything else. I think it just depends on, right?
Who gets the 25%? You, taking the deal to your coworker or?
Yeah,
who's
so,
the 25%?
so what I always do is, if I, and, you know, in contact with me, then I would basically get Drew the deal and she'd pay me 25% of the bill.
Gotcha.
25% per.
There's the 51.
Yeah.
Well, only because I spend a lot of time.
I don't want, they give me salary, you give it, it's like, it ultimately depends on, what I'm gonna charge is gonna depend on the service.
Yeah.
Right, so, especially, I mean, think about it like this. Maybe I have been working with this buyer for a long time. I have been, nurturing this relationship, really building this stuff up, and we haven't really found anything yet. Then all of a sudden I get a list, and they fall in love with that list. It's not just some random buyer into me that was so easy for me to get or whatever like that. This was somebody that I was working with prior to basically having that happen, that I invested a lot of time in, and I made sure that they're pre-qualified, they're ready to go. So it's like, I can hand Tree a buyer that I just met, and maybe they'll close, maybe they won't. If I hand Tree a buyer that, they're actually buying this house, and I know they're pre-qualified, I know they're a great buyer, this deal is going to close, then I might say, I need more than 25%. Because I've invested a lot of work in this, I just don't want the person who's representing us,
Okay.
right? So then I might charge somebody, so then I might charge somebody, right? All right.
John, will you ever do any negotiation class? Like, not a whole,
Yeah.
the way Brian does it, but
Yeah, sure.
I mentioned,
Who?
not Brian, that does the negotiation.
Yeah, I do.
Oh.
Let me do something. A couple steps on becoming a replace. Right? Yeah, it's everything in there. So remember, value is at the heart of all businesses, because all businesses are trying to gain their value. You determine the value you provide, and your clients determine how valuable it is to them. I really like that. You're thinking about that, right? People are going to pay me determining how valuable this is, what I'm providing them is. If you pass the transaction, focus on deepening the relationship. Think of it as like product services that the program need either useful or needed. If something is useful or needed, it's relevant. If something is relevant, then there's value to it, right? When you can consistently deliver relevance and value, you want to replace it. But now I'm giving you something nobody else is, right? So a couple things with this. Make a list of all the touches you make. So how am I reaching out to people every year in order to keep them keep me top of mind, right? So Keller Williams always teaches to put people onto a 36 touch. So am I connecting with people 36 times? And if so, what am I connecting with? Am I sending like gardening tips? Is that high value? Probably they can Google gardening tips on it, right? Am I sending them information about their specific neighborhood, about their house, about neighborhoods they might be interested in? It's high value, right? So look at that. Here is, I do 36 touches here. Here are the 36 touches that I do, right? Which ones provide high value or relevant? And if there's any of them that, then I'm going to circle those. And if any of them are not relevant, well, then maybe I probably shouldn't send. Not everybody's going to want relevant, right? What's going to be relevant to this person? And if it's relevant, if that's going to be interesting to them, then that's going to create value, right? And if it creates value, then I'm going to become your replacement. Because, anybody can sign you up for 5 a month. Cool, I don't like costs. I can give them all away. That's not value. right? But, if you're sending me something that I'm really, really passionate about, or is interesting to me, or I have a connection to you, then that's going to be better, right? So it says here, make a list of all the touches you make, circle the ones that are useful or needed. Review your list of touches that are not useful or needed. What list what you can do instead of that, right? And does it differentiate my business? So these touches that I'm making, does it set me apart from other agents, right? That's one of the questions I want to ask myself. Or is it something anybody else can? And anybody else can sign you up for an MLS search, but can anybody else sign you up for top 50 homes that aren't on the MLS? You're not involved with it, right? I mean, think about that. If I'm a serious buyer and you sign me up for the MLS, that's for an MLS, that's super valuable. Not really, it's like a certain skill on my own, or any agent could sign me up for that. But Eric is sending me 50 homes a week that aren't on the MLS. I'm not getting that. That's highly relevant. That's highly valuable. Now remember, that is going to make him irreplaceable, because I didn't get any of that other stuff. Any.
Well, maybe we can get that.
Well, I'm saying we got a whole state building, right? And so networking with hey, calling agents every week that are my friends, and maybe even some ones that aren't my friends, just start building those relationships with other agents. So it's like, now I can, Maureen and I have been friends for a long time. Every couple of weeks saying, hey, Maureen, you got anything that's coming up? It's not on the market yet. Let's get in business. Let's do it.
Well, yeah.
Every time I open an open house and they're knocking on those doors, the neighbors coming in. Hey, man, I know you're probably not looking to sell your house, maybe never, but what price would it take for you to consider making it? Right? $2 million, cool. If I can find you $2 million buyer, I'm gonna give you a call. Okay, cool. Right? Now I'm just building my list. And it's like, okay, I've got my list of agents that I can call if they got anything coming soon. I got my people that I've been talking to. I know the price point. Hey, you know what? I know Manuel 2 years ago, you said that if your house is worth $2 million and you would sell, it's worth $2 million. Now I'm going to come knocking on your door. Hey, you could probably get $2 million for your house. If you take an offer. Well, I don't get on the MLS, but you give me a $2 million buyer. Okay, cool. Now I got a pocket. Right?
Have you, before you show it to that realtor, do you write something in writing, or you don't give them address? You have writing with the seller.
So who's who?
I have the pockets.
Okay.
And agent that I've worked with before asked me if I had anything in that area, and I said yes, I do. Now they want to know the address. I've been I haven't signed it. Fine.
Yeah, I mean, in that particular case, I would say, hey, let me reach back out to my seller and see what I can release the information.
Yeah, because once I did that, told someone that I knew quite well, and he said, oh, I know those people. He ended up getting
Yeah.
one time.
Yeah, I would have sold the listing. So yeah, I wouldn't release too much information unless you know you got an opportunity. Hey, before I give you any information, if the house isn't listed, let me confirm to make sure that they would still be interested in selling. And then now I call you and basically, say, hey, listen, we got an interest.
That hurts.
Yeah.
Oh, that was terrible. The owner came here.
And that's what it says, commit to trading out a useless touch for a useful one each quarter. So, hey, listen, I'm just slowly, here's what I always advise. Build a 36 touch plan as fast as you can, because that's going to be important in helping you stay in front of people. And then maybe monthly or quarterly, auditing my touches. Let's just take one out and make it better. And hey, this one's not quite right. I'm going to replace it with this, or hey, I'm going to make this one like super good, right? That way, over time, I build out like the perfect 36 touch that's really highly relevant, highly useful, and really good, but at the same time, what I don't want anything to do is say, hey, I might get a 36 touch together, but I'm not going to launch anything until perfect. Because then you're gonna be waiting 2 or 3 years, and it's not gonna be perfect yet, and then. That's not, right? Imperfect action beats perfect inaction. So, summary of the classes in general, we finished up 10 minutes early, or so, is value can change over time, embrace change and use it as an opportunity to adapt when faced with it. So, hey, what's valuable today might not be valuable tomorrow, so we always gotta kind of adapt. Understanding your value and being able to communicate it at a high level is essential for building trust through the empathy, competency, transparency, and dependability. When you focus on value, it's conveyed throughout the entire transaction, before and after, plus moving past the transaction. When you deliver relevance and value, you become irreplaceable, right? Implement your core service frameworks for your buyers and sellers. So that's the big takeaway or action step I would say to do now is go through those core services and say, am I currently doing this? If I'm not doing this, should I be doing this? If I should be doing this, how am I do it so that it's highly valuable, right? Because hey, you know, cool, searching for properties is a core service, but I'm going to go beyond that. Because if I wanted the perfect house, I wouldn't just wait for it to pop up on the MLS. I would send postcards out, I would send mailers out to the neighborhoods I was interested in. I would be driving through the neighborhoods and and saying that one. I go knock on those doors or send letters to those people saying, hey, I'm interested in buying your house, right? I would do that myself. Cool. I couldn't do that for my buyers, right? And so now, I think that's the big thing is what are my core services, and use those core sections. Not that you have to do everything in those things, although most of it's standardized. But what can I add? What could I change? And then more importantly, how would I do this task in the fiduciary? Like how would I go above and beyond doing this, right?
Yeah.
And then complete any of the post-training extensions on your value and customer experience further, right? Which are always good. I don't know all stuff. So what were some overall?
I'm gonna add more to my listing presentation, make it a little bit more specific, like you guys have on stage 1, stage 2. Asking the buyer. I've been having a difficult time asking them.
So how do you ask a buyer for you? Something like that, right?
Especially a buyer that I've known.
You even one you have to ask them.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying. I actually did it so poorly the first day that the guy directly to Zillow bought out.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want to sign.
But do you have to ask the person for money?
The buyer? No, but, well, in a way, you're saying that the buyer is now typically, responsible for the compensation, however. In the listing, in the purchase agreement, we're gonna ask the seller to purchase.
Yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't really need to be a different things, because I don't need it. Basically, all I need to do is kind of explain how the process works. Right. We're gonna put an offer on the house, right? It used to be where the seller would offer buyer's agent compensation. Standard without you having to negotiate that into the deal. Now you have to negotiate that into the deal. So may be willing or not willing to pay buyer compensation. So we can do this one of two ways, right? We can ask the seller to pay the compensation. If the seller doesn't pay the compensation or they reduce the compensation, is that something that you could pay for on your own, or do we need to try to negotiate all of that into the contract, right? And if they say, hey, no, we need to negotiate all in the contract, bound by any money to pay, Okay, that's fine. Right? However, right, we might get into a situation where we put an offer on a property and they're unwilling to pay that. And just like any other real estate transaction, they don't agree to a term, then we don't get into the contract. Okay, well, I'm good with that, as far as that goes, because they don't have any money to pay, so we have to negotiate that as part of the terms. And if we write an offer and they can compensate me, hey, they're not offering, they're unwilling to pay compensation, you can counter it, hopefully we can get them to, actually accept it. Otherwise, then we get it passed.
Do you lower the price? Like if you, okay, let's say $1 million, I write the offer $1 million, 2.5, I ask the seller. Seller counters will not pay the 2.5. Then we would counter saying, well, now I'm only gonna buy the house for $975. Is that what you're doing back and forth?
Right, well, you can do it, you can do it, negotiations. If you know.
Yeah.
So, hey, you know what, if I have the money to pay you, right, I could do it at a lower price. And then now I'm gonna, because, hey, I think that's what we're gonna get into a situation where there's some weirdness with prices. If the sellers are willing to pay the commission,
Compensate.
the compensation. Right, so it's not unique custom houses like we got here. A better example would be, say for example, some Manuel's got a house listed, you got a house listed, we're sitting freaking floor. Right. Right, both listed in $1 million. He's offering comp, you're not. Right? Okay, cool, I'll pay you $1 million. It's not paying you for that house because I gotta now pay my agent, and I gotta buy that house. Or if I go and buy his house, I pay $1 million, my agent's got it. So I'll pay you, $950, and then we'll call it a day. Yeah, and so I think what's gonna happen is for the sellers that are basically offering no buyer's agent comp, they're gonna start getting lower offers.
Plus, what happens when a buyer agent walks into a property, the first thing they ask for, the first thing is their seller concession.
Never.
Before they even put an offer or
I wouldn't
think
say
about
yes.
a price.
If
I mean, if the seller's offering, yes.
Yeah, well, the way we should, we're going out for list. Somebody says, hey, it's
I would just say.
because here's what they've been telling us on how to do that correctly. Is the seller willing to pay buyers a good commission? My response to that is submit an offer. The seller is willing to entertain all offers, right? Just make sure that because hopefully what we're going to do is we're going to look at all offers in their entirety. The one that has the best terms with the best price for my client, those we're going to get consider all. So, right, so I'm not going to give you a specific number, but I'm going to tell you, yeah, it's sort of willing to entertain.
Right, that's what I would.
And we can give us on
Well,
the listing like told them up to 2.5%. It depends on the terms and conditions, because they might come at the seller asking price. I'm gonna give you the 2.5. You might come 50 grand less. I'm not gonna give you 2.5. I'm gonna negotiate, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I went like, yes, we give a seller concession up to 2.5%. Depends on the offer, terms and conditions.
Yeah, and that's what we were basically saying, submit your offer.
But everybody's asking right now, before they come to you with an offer, they ask you, everybody.
Well, I would just say submit an offer, and the reason is because this listing that I'm getting, he told me he's not paying $1.
Yeah, but no one is gonna put the effort to put
But
a.
I can't say to him, I gave him, I educated. But I can't say to him, well, no one's gonna show you the property.
The only thing is we need to be really careful right now, because the thing is that agents are gonna get sued.
Yeah.
Because the thing is like, say for example, originally they said, hey, you gotta remove all the commissions from the website.
We did.
Right, which we did, right? But then a lot of agents are like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna put sign letters on my thing saying 3% commission. Or I'm gonna put flyers out there saying we're offering 3%.
Actually, he could put it on the description. And I was told, you can do that if you want, but I was.
Yeah, but there's a lot of attorneys that are out there right now, that are basically looking for that. And they're basically, but they're gonna be coming up with more laws saying, hey, you know what? This defeats the spirit of the NAR settlement. And you're still out there trying to collude on.
We changed the word from. What is it, from compensation, I mean, to concession, that's.
But see, you have to be careful with concession too, because concession could also mean that if the buyer gets
Credits.
credit,
Buy down,
right, but yeah.
so many things.
Well, and here's the other thing too, is because at the end of the day, what we don't want to get into this situation is here, this is a real scenario. And this is why a lot of this stuff kind of came down was, I'm listing, you know, Maureen's house. And, you know, I tell Maureen, hey, you know what, in order for us to really sell this house, you should pay me the 3%, and then you should pay my, you know, buyers at 3% too. And she agrees, it's cool. But, right? What if a buyer's agent would have been willing to represent a buyer and take 1%? I also, I think
It's just lost her way.
negotiating, I am giving away the money. And that's where a lot of this stuff kind of came into play. So that's why, even though you might find by not getting it on the MLS, putting it into these other things, a lot of these, there's going to be more lawsuits because it's like, again, you went out and said, you told everybody that you were willing to give 2.5%, or my neighbor just sold her house and she only had to pay 1%. I would say you just lost $55,000.
So she's the one who's.
Yeah, yeah. So when we're starting to see some of the.
Yeah, my client is represented by an attorney, so a little bit.
Yeah, sure. But that's what I'm saying, you just gotta be really careful on the communications we have with agents, because it's like, cool, I need three, you know, nobody wants to write an offer on a property that they're not gonna get paid on, so, you know, everybody's gonna ask, are they paying Tom? And my response, my canned response is just gonna be, hey, listen, my seller is willing to consider all offers, just make that, make your offer really competitive and.
Don't give a number, don't give.
I'm not gonna have a number at all.
Because if I tell people,
In my case, my seller he was willing to give 3% to whoever's.
yeah, but
To asking price.
But later, they'll find out that his friend only 2%, and even though he told you 3%, he's gonna be upset, well, why did you?
He asked for it, yeah, and it was like, I'm willing to pay 3%
Right.
to whoever's gonna come and ask the price.
And that's okay, but basically what you want to do is, in the case where the seller is, should have them sign something saying that it's going to disclose commission rates with them. Yeah, well, I think that's, you know, if you feel like it's helping market more or better, and the seller wants to disclose that.
Yeah.
And that's right. Right, otherwise, then I would. All right, guys, thanks.
And then on mine won't pay anything, so. And then if I tell realtors that it's not gonna pay me. No,
Yeah, but
so what I'm saying is just submit, because basically I said to him, all I'm asking is to come in on. You can have, you told me that you're interested in the highest net.
Yes.
So we can get 3 offers, they're all asking, but you will get the price you want. Of course, he made a stupid comment, and so well, I'll just counter it and more.
oh, and that's fine, too.
They willing to continue it.